Good morning and welcome back to day number 2 here in HGC SEA. My name is Jayhel, joined this morning by Riku. Riku had an exciting day of games yesterday after our 2-0s throughout the first of the day. Had a lot of excitement. What were your thoughts on the games yesterday?
I was definitely super hyped and stoked about what happened yesterday because it was a lot of series that ended up with game number threes, and that was like the first time in a long time I've seen Deadly Kittens really struggle in the competition.
There were definitely some ups and downs, I think, for our top 2 seeds. We saw Resurgence. They dropped a map yesterday. Deadly Kittens, obviously, we saw the winter bracket finals. Obviously, all the teams dropping down to the lower bracket, as we'll take a look here in just a moment. But, we saw a lot of action yesterday. Team like Detergents, we've seen the reformation of certain teams. Team like Detergents really stood out to me yesterday. So we're going to take a closer look at those throughout the day. But Deadly Kittens dropping down with Resurgence waiting in the grand finals at the end of today. So that'll be something to look out for. And I think now would actually be a good time for us to take a look at that bracket so we can see how yesterday played out. As again, started off bunch of 2-0s, but then things really heated up. Like I said, Resurgence versus Detergents, my favorite one to say those back to back. That was the 2-1 that really kind of caught me off guard at the early part of yesterday.
Yeah, same here. And with that said, there are a couple of teams that weren't on the spotlight yesterday, and we'll be taking a look at those later on throughout the day. That is going to be Paeji and the gang, Drakon, and Playstomp also had a good showing yesterday, except that they fell short, and that's why we're going to be seeing them at the lower bracket. We'll see who are they going to be up against because Corgi Breadloaf was, a little bit interesting against Detergents at the first series of our first day. But yes, we'll see how that's going to pan out.
And that's something that I'm looking forward to. We saw it's kind of the differentiating styles, I think, that really kind of stood out yesterday because Corgi Breadloaf kind of brought their own thing to the table. We saw Detergents kind of come in.
Yeah.
Detergents, again, surprised me more than any team yesterday, despite the fact that they ended up losing into the second round, dropping out of the lower bracket. To me, it showed that they knew what they were doing. Their drafts were good. Their execution was good. Their macro game was good. And it's just a matter of putting it all together to try and take the series off the top 2 teams. And that's something that we'll look out for throughout the day. As you said, we're going to be starting off our day. I believe we're starting off with Corgi Breadloaf, which
Oh,
I'm gonna sneak a peek. Actually, it's Paeji in the game and
yes.
Drakon.
Drakon. Yeah,
We're starting off on the lower part there.
Drakon. You have never seen them before in terms of like yesterday, but these Paeji and the gang is a regular in the SEA scene as well. For Drakon, we've got 2 Filipino players from there and 3 players from Singapore.
It's kind of reminiscent of Deadly Kittens. You just trade that 3 and 2. You had 3 Filipinos and 2 Singaporeans for a long time.
That's
now
true.
we've got 3 Filipinos and 2 Koreans. Again, we'll cover more on those teams later in the day. But again, with these teams, they were 2-0'd yesterday. Some of them to some pretty good competition. So we didn't get to see Paeji and the gang. Paeji and the gang, a name that's familiar to this scene. Paeji himself, oftentimes on that support role. But Paeji and the gang, been around a long time, trying to see them take that next step. We've seen them throughout SEA throughout the entire year. We'll see how they go up against Drakon here as we do start the day here soon. But again, Paeji and the gang, they've been around a while. I'm waiting for them to take the next step. We didn't get to see them yesterday, so this is our first look at them today. Excited to see what they can bring to the table.
Same here. So for the roster of Paeji and the gang, it's going to be Arata, Jakurza, Noxim, Choicer, Paeji, and generally Hung. So some of them are familiar, but I see a few new names there.
A few new names, indeed. As we will get into the game here momentarily. Our first map, by the way, is going to be Battlefield of Eternity, where if you want to see
Yeah.
2 teams, you want to test their mettle to see how if you want to see how 2 teams face off in terms of team fighting, I'm sorry, but
Yeah. First map, yeah. Battlefield of Eternity, definitely. We're going to be checking that in a while.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Battlefield of Eternity, not so much macro play that we see traditionally on some other maps. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You're an innocent person, Riku.
Yes, I
But-
am. I'm still trying to figure out what happened.
But that's the thing is, like, Battlefield of Eternity brings a different dynamic in terms of the team fighting and things like that. It's not like your Curse Talon, it's not like your Sky Temple. We're going to see a whole lot of rotations. We're going to see 2 teams that will be drafting to fight when we do get to our first map, which will hopefully be soon as we do work out all that stuff behind the scenes. But again, without seeing this team in our day one, we had the qualifiers last weekend. That was off stream. We got the games going today. So it'll be our first look at them. And I can only go on history, right? Paeji and the gang, I remember games on Dragonshire, things like that I remember them kind of standing out on. It was maps like that they tended to have more success. When I've got drafts all year round from this team. Obviously we've seen some changes for rosters throughout the year, but Paeji and the gang still rocking with Paeji, obviously. So those are things that obviously I want to look at, where will they stand in terms of team fighting? And I think team fighting in certain aspects wasn't that great for them previously. So again, with the first map pick, it was through Drakon. So that's the thing is, does Drakon feel comfortable team fighting, and what can they bring against Paeji and the gang?
Exactly, because I was looking at the drafts or their compositions for Drakon, and I don't see much of in terms of like identity, except that their pool is pretty healthy, especially for the DPS side. But meanwhile, for Paeji and the gang, I saw that they really favor the double support comp, and they also tend to go for the dive comp. They like to lock in that Illidan and then Genji, the Zeratul. I saw at the qualifiers 1 and 2. So we'll see what kind of play style they're going to apply against Drakon. So Battlefield of Eternity, what do you think is going to be the priorities here?
Other than priorities, I think we'll see Greymane, probably some Malthel up at the top.
Sure.
But yesterday, I was thinking about this morning as I was preparing, trying to get ready, thinking about what we might see today from some of these teams. And I started to think about it because for me, casting the North American Open Division, it was right around the 2-week mark, but we were like 1 day short from the 2-week mark, so we didn't have Garrosh in there. I still have yet to cast the game of Garrosh. We only saw a couple of bans on Garrosh yesterday, which means that certain teams might not be comfortable. And it's one of those heroes that I oftentimes say, if you take an ETC, it's really easy for your backline and everybody else to say, look, I can recognize a power slide. This is really easy to follow up on.
True.
Muradin, it's why Muradin, I think's win rate is so low when it comes to the competitive hero league, stuff like that, because it's hard to see where does the Stormbolt go. He's a great hero, I think, a lot of CC abilities, things like that. And that's more of a team fighting. You need to be coordinated, knowing when somebody's going to lead the charge and knowing when to follow it up. It's a little bit more difficult to recognize. Garrosh is one of those things like, look, I'm bringing somebody in and I'm tossing them way over my head.
Exactly.
Right? It's easy to recognize, but you have to be coordinated in your approach. And we actually saw, some pretty interesting approaches yesterday where we saw the Stitches hook with the Morales grenade knocking it back.
Good.
So SEA brings a little bit different flavor, I think, to some of the more traditional things. And while we only saw a couple of bans on Garrosh yesterday, you got to think that some of these teams, maybe more of the top-tier teams that have been together a little longer, things like that they might have some of those strategies developed around Garrosh. And Garrosh is the hero I'm most looking forward to seeing today. And I'm wondering if Day 2 can bring that out of some of our teams.
The thing is, when I was looking at the pool, I think I only saw during the qualifiers, it was only Deadly Kittens that used Garrosh, and perhaps even Resurgence in their pool, but I'm not quite sure. Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, they used only Deadly Kittens and Resurgence that used that during the qualifiers.
And that's the thing is, like, we didn't get to see that. That's why I'm ready to cast it, And, this is the live patch, so for those that are wondering, we've seen kind of the change onto Ariel, bursting light removed from level 7. It's kind of been all the talk lately, not having that cooldown reduction. However, if you're a bit more skillful with your abilities, you can generate more hope through Ariel, but we've seen teams struggle with it so far, playing more into the double support role. Uther slightly nerfed in terms of that armor that he gives out, no longer 25, down to 15. Level 1, Wave of Light. We've seen people just kind of stay away from that talent altogether for the most part through our first day. So things like that. But this is the one where Garrosh is buffed, to where his level 1 talent, you can get the extra range on the toss, things like that. So I want to see teams see how they continue to play around these the updates that we've had recently.
I feel like we might be seeing a Garrosh today because sometimes some things just pass through the radar of some of the teams, and it might just be like second rotation pick, probably some last pick warrior. So we'll have to see how they're going to adjust. But going back to Paeji and the gang here and their composition and their pool, what do you think would be effective for a BOE in terms of like double support would be most effective here? Would they go triple damage for them?
It's weird because yesterday we saw the attempt at the Vala, Ariel, and Uther. And it didn't necessarily fit the previous drafts from the team that we had seen, and it seems to me, and it always speaks out to me in terms of you can have a great composition, you can have great heroes like a Medivh, heroes that could on a good level be completely broken, and it's not necessarily individual skill based on why that team might suffer. That player might be an incredible Medivh, but it is a team coordinated effort. And I think heroes like that, maybe we'll see people stay away from just a little bit. If they do bring that out, I'd be a little bit surprised. But that kind of falls into the same category of double support. We saw a team that had Kevin, who's traditionally been the melee assassin bruiser role on teams past. And then yesterday he was on heroes. I saw him, instead of use cleanse, he used ice block yesterday. And it's muscle memory, right? If you're familiar with that hero, it's not because he's bad at the hero. Don't get me wrong. It's just muscle memory. It's that the more you play that hero, the easier it is. You just kind of, you don't have to consciously think about what buttons you need to press. You just reactively do those things. And it's people like that the composition might look good, but it might not necessarily fit your team style. So I'd like to see teams keep it a little bit reserved. We've seen some roster changes. Maybe continue to keep it a little bit more meta.
That was the Brightwing game yet. The Oriole Brightwing game. Yeah. I saw that time where it was a 5v5 at the bot side where they were probably around the camps, I think. And then Oriole Aegis herself, and then Brightwing ice blocked. So that's practically a few seconds of 3v5, and I was just You
gotta self-preserve in moments like that. I think, again, familiarity, not just with the heroes, but as a team, I think is going to be the main thing. So sticking to the meta, understanding that even if you want to bring something out, like Garrosh, I think is a little bit more forgiving in the sense that, look, even if we're not 100% sure how to play with this hero, he's still pretty good because you can throw people behind you, and that makes really easy targets. So then you got to think about drafts. Like we saw some Tyrael yesterday, and Resurgence played Yu Yang, phenomenal Tyrael play throughout the rest of the day. Sometimes a lot of people aren't really comfortable on Tyrael, but he does have that added mobility in case there's danger. You can get out, use the Eldruins, things like that. So then you find warriors who are always going to be on that front line, picking something like a Murden or ETC that has the mobility to get out in situations like that. If you play Stitches or an Arthas, that's a long walk out. And so those are things that, again, it's draft priority, and those are things that I'm looking forward to today.
Same here. Actually, I was watching, I forgot if it was EU or NA where they picked the Stitches, they picked the Lucio, it would gorge, and then movement speed out of there very far, long walk. It was pretty fun.
It was funny. I was watching some North America this morning. Collusion this morning played some Lucio. He's just like, zoom. It's really interesting to watch. You know, these teams, they've kind of just adapted to this. And again, with these supports being changed so much between Ariel and Uther, taking some slight steps back in terms of where we've seen them over the past few months, and now all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, does that bring the other ones up? Does it level the playing field a little bit? And who does it bring out? And so those are things. The support role right now is probably the most intriguing because we've kind of had this very determined meta of Uther, Ariel. Of course, Tassadar's in the mix at some point. But even Tassadar's taken a slight hit to his auto attack, right? So the support role in particular, it's just, where do teams find the right, I guess, blend of, all right, this is what's going to work the best. And again, those things, it's just being on the live patch. You got to kind of figure it out. You got the time. You knew the patch notes. You've had a few weeks. You've had a week or so. Just put in the time and effort. Make it work.
Speaking of supports, I think Paeji and the gang is the only one that used Stukov during the qualifiers.
That's the thing, is Stukov is another. It's kind of, I've seen teams, they've used the Stitches, and generally you have like the roots, like the lockdown, but then it kind of falls into the same category of if you have that ability to get out. And we've seen teams kind of like, what if we just replace roots? If Stukov just shoves his arm in the ground and has a big silence there, so you can't use the mobility to get out. So again, it's been a very interesting style. And again, Tyrande, we've seen a little bit of Tyrande in Europe, but they just added onto her level 4 talent that removes stuns, now also removes silences, and you got to think, is that kind of where that might to evolve into? So again, there's a lot of what ifs, I think, as we get into today.
Yeah, I'm really excited because both of these teams, Paeji and Drakon, both of them have a very wide range of pools in terms of like DPS, support. They're very, very healthy. But now that we brought up hero pools. It's just I remembered Deadly Kittens yesterday where Confidence just played all these mages.
Yep.
And then suddenly he went Tassadar. And I felt like maybe he's not comfy in that sort of position. What do you think?
Well, the scary thing about that is that they were playing on the other side of Resurgence. They played a lot of Tira, who has the built-in spell armor. You know, we saw kind of that coordinated effort to try and use the Horrify on Gul'dan, using the Cocoon, try and split the team, and it didn't quite have the impact that they expected it to have. You know, they ran some pretty interesting comps earlier in the day. You know, they had really good dive comps that were very well executed, and then they ran into some things that, for what it's worth, was good. It just wasn't good enough. Resurgence had a better draft, had a little bit better coordination in some team fights, and all it takes is one or two team fights to turn the game around. So it's an interesting thing. The mages right now, even if we look at Dignitas in Europe, Mene, known to be the best mage player in the world, but the meta has evolved. They've got him falling back into either a double support role or the Tassadar, just because there's so much spell armor out there, different ways to deal with the mages right now. So we'll see. Speaking of mages, Kel'Thuzad coming out. Quick update for you guys. We are having some connection issues with one player. We're trying to get that resolved. So if you're wondering what's going on, why we haven't gotten to the game yet, we did get the update. We're trying to get one player into the game.
Yep.
And then we'll get started underway. I know everybody's looking forward to getting SEA going today to find out who Riku. There's a lot on the line today. First team in the world today will qualify for Blizzcon.
Exactly. And I'm pretty sure the top two teams right now is, what do you think is the top two teams? There's Resurgence, definitely. They've showed a huge improvement from the last time we saw them. And who do you think could be their contender?
To say Deadly Kittens scares me a little bit because I feel like they dropped their first game in the second series yesterday, and then they came out and they dominated the next two games. But Detergents was such a standout performer. They lost 2-1 to Resurgence, who's the top seed. So it's kind of expected that they would lose there.
Yes.
But it's not like they did not lay down. They did not lay down at all. I talked about at the end of yesterday. They are my dark horse of this tournament in the sense that my expectations weren't that high because we've seen so many roster changes. But again, with the changes to Deadly Kittens, somebody's got to come to the top. And Resurgence has looked really good. They looked really good in qualifiers last week.
True.
They were the number one seed coming in. But then Detergence is like, wait a minute. We're actually not bad. And they actually took the first game off that series. So it's kind of like, I guess 1B, 1A, 1B, or 2A, 2B if you say number one is Resurgence.
Yeah.
But it's like 2A, 2B between Deadly Kittens and Detergents right now. But PlayStomp has to have a little bit of respect there as well because they did take a game off Deadly Kittens in their series yesterday.
Yeah, for the side of PlayStomp, I really like their performance during their game number one, except that you can tell how antsy they are. You can tell how they get a little bit too greedy sometimes, and that's why they cannot secure the win. I think they need to be a little bit more patient when it comes to these games. And I'm pretty sure they learned from yesterday. And since this is, the lower bracket, they still have a chance. But, going back to the Detergents, I really love how clean they play, especially when they get ahead. They know what to do. They're very solid. The team dynamics is also there as well. I'm just a little bit worried about somehow I see this obvious weakness for their side. Like, what do they do if they are behind? Like, sometimes I find them very passive. It's like they wait for the team to make a mistake, then they punish you with that.
That's the hardest thing, I think, for teams to recognize opportunities on comeback mechanics. 6.5 out of 10 is there for a reason, but anybody that's played competitively understands that there's always a window of opportunity. There's always maybe even a little bit of luck factor when it comes to team fighting. But you have to create opportunities. And some of the teams, they'll find ways to create opportunities. Some won't. And the thing that I saw out of Detergents yesterday, especially through their first three games, was a high priority on global heroes. Good priority, good use of the global heroes, specifically Dahaka and Falstad. They found ways to make that work and to find ways to stay in the game and never have too large of a gap to close. And you're always going to have those games where, look, sometimes it's just everything's going to go wrong and you're just not going to make it back in it. But the globals can help keep you in that game, and it kind of bridges that gap of, instead of a 3-level lead that we're giving up, it's like 2 levels, maybe 1.5. If we can just get to that next level, that next talent tier, we can take that. And that's what I saw out of Detergents yesterday, was good priority on the global between Falstad, between Dahaka. And it wasn't until we went to Battlefield of Eternity, 2-lane map, where they ran the double support, and when we went to Dragonshire, which is one of the most interesting macro-based maps in the game. There's
Yes.
so many strategies involved here. That was when they struggled a little bit.
They did.
And so it was the bigger maps they had success on. So things like that. What maps do you start to ban? So those are things I think to look out for today.
Yeah, Deadlykins didn't actually give room for the team, their enemy team, to breathe. They just took. I think they played Illidan that time. Was it? No, they played a very
Dragonshire
heavy
game?
rotation. Yeah, the Dragonshire game. A heavy early game rotation game. So anyway, looks like we're having a little bit of updates here. Oh.
We're going to have a stand-in. So
Stand-in.
we can't get the player online, so we're going to have a stand-in for Drakon. So we will be getting that underway shortly. I know everybody's kind of been waiting for that. We've been trying to go there. We're actually going to go to a quick break while we get this going. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back momentarily as we get day number 2 started to find out who will be going to Blizzcon. Stay tuned. welcome back. Sorry for the delay, but I've got good news. Riku, we're ready to go. We've got our sub in. We've got Battlefield of Eternity in the waiting, and we're ready to go into game number 1 to get day 2 started.
Yeah, super duper excited. Again, the team Drakon has decided to put in a stand-in, and she used to be from Inquisition.
So you've got the competitive experience. You won't fold under the pressure. So we'll get directly into our drafts. I know everybody's ready to get going today as we head into Battlefield of Eternity. We're going to see what the teams have up their sleeves for today. We talked already about the potential. I got to see, is the Ariel, Tassadar, Genji trifecta the first 2 bans and picks? We're going to find out here in just a moment.
Yeah, usually we see the Oriel ban, the Genji ban, but again, this is different. This is Battlefield of Eternity, Drakon, Paeji and the gang. Plus, you mentioned how, Greymane is a good pick here. But taking a look at their previous picks from the qualifiers, again, I mentioned how healthy their pool is, both of these teams. Again, Paeji and the gang really favors the double support on their side. They seem to favor it a lot, but again, they're the only ones that actually played Stukov and Lily in the Greymane being actually taken out of the field.
And I'm okay with that. It opens the door, and this is the side. If you're on Drakon, are you willing to give up the Genji? That's no. So if you're Paeji, are you committing to an early Ariel, or are you committing to a Tassadar? And the way that we saw Ariel play out yesterday, I gotta think that Tassadar might be the number 1 pick here for Paeji.
But they seem to prioritize the Vala more, so that means Drakon has the ability to actually get the Oriel for themselves. Or will they decide to do something else for their side? Taking a look at their picks for their support. Yes, they do play Uther. They also play Karazim, Tassadar as well.
But it's a tricky thing. If you have to take one or the other, right? You've got to take either Tassadar, you've got to take Ariel. You can't give up both of those to Paeji and just give the trifecta away, right?
Yes, definitely. So they're taking their sweet time. But then again, I mean, that's a Vala being secured, so a lot of compositions will fit that well. Oriel will fit that well. Tas, so just as you mentioned, we'll see. You don't want to give that away. Okay, for Drakon, they also play Stitches for tanks. Anubarak, Arthas, nothing too unusual there. And their DPS is very healthy as well. Tassadar, are you going to pick the Oriel? They decide to go for the Stitches.
I'm okay with that. Giving up the Ariel right now, again, I don't know if it's just the way it's been played. There's an obvious drop-off from what we've seen in terms of the amount of healing output, the consistency. It's very noticeable what we've seen in day 1 in terms of where Ariel used to be and where she's at now. So maybe you just stay completely away from Ariel, but you've got the ETC. You can't just ignore a support in this role, else you might get choked into something. They've got to be contemplating Ariel, but if they were confident in Ariel, I feel like it would have already been locked in by now.
Exactly. They're thinking twice about this. They have to worry about, okay, there you go, Oriel is going to get picked, which is understandable. Looking at Paeji, again, they like the double support. They also play Uther, if I look at it. Do you think it's a wise choice to actually go Vala, Oriel, Uther again? I mean, we saw a team that played the exact same comp at the exact same map.
It's not a bad composition. To me, it just stands out in terms of, is your team capable of running it? You might have the best Uther, you might have the best Ariel, you might have the best Vala. But if your team isn't used to running that, then you might overlap heroics. You might just not be able to time your heals in the right area. You might not be applying that armor at the right time. And there's certain things, it's not just, you don't use things on cooldown, right?
Sure.
You can afford to let somebody take a little bit of damage to wait to deal with the potential burst, to try and hold abilities and things like that. That's where double support comes in, is there's a really delicate balance unless your Vala is just steamrolling the other team. But Stitch is on the other side. That's a high health pool. You've got Tassadar shields. You know, Vala's going to have a hard time poking through that composition just through the first 2 picks of Drakon.
Exactly. I'm a little bit worried, if ever. So would you suggest that Paeji actually lock in a secondary DPS? Well, I actually forgot about Lunara. Lunara has been a popular pick in this tournament since day 1, either banned or picked. and her win rate is actually pretty healthy if I look at it in this tournament. So we'll see how they will respond to this, as Drakon doesn't have their DPS damage dealers just yet. What do you think are they going to pick?
With Greymane and Lunara banned out, I mean, you could almost go into something that might be a little bit safer. Picking Li Ming would feel weird with the Tassadar, but it gives you the interrupt for the mosh pit, has some of the absolute best poke in the game.
True.
If I was really thinking outside the box,
They do play Li Ming, though.
I'd throw some. Yeah, they go Li Ming. I'd throw the word Sergeant Hammer out there, but I don't want to get too crazy.
Yeah, they do play Li Ming. They also play Gul'dan, actually, and Falstad. So,
no Gul'dan on this map.
yeah.
That'd be a little too wild. But the Li Ming, I like the pickup, and they end up going with the Uther. So they don't necessarily have the enabled hero just yet. Tass Uther generally says Illidan, but I don't know where Drakon stands with that. As the Malthael's picked up in return, and they go into the double support with a Brightwing.
Double support it is for Paeji and the gang. Pretty balanced. They've got the ETC for the Initiate. They've got really good AoE damage as well. Good single target damage. Very, very solid coming from Paeji and the gang. And we'll see how Drakon actually responds to this. But I feel like they need another... What do you think? They need another frontline or a damage dealer here?
Well, they need a solo laner, and they need somebody that can contribute. Artanis is one of the few heroes that I'd actually like here. Going into something like the Illidan is very difficult into the Malthael, and then, of course, having the Brightwing and ETC on the other side, that's a very difficult task for an Illidan. You got to think that you need somebody else on that front line to try and give at least the threat. If you're going a single Stitches in the back with an Uther as your other quote-unquote melee,
yeah,
technically he is, you need to make sure that you get the hook into the Uther stun. Instead, they go into the auto attack hero of Zul'jin to round this out.
Interesting. So this is the first time they've brought this out in the tournament. The only team that brought out Zul'jin was Resurgence. So I'm interested how they're going to... Yeah, multiple times. It's their favorite since qualifiers and up to yesterday. So what do you think about their composition for both of these teams?
I don't mind the Zul'jin. You have that consistent auto attack damage that's going to be there. Li Ming will be your burst poke that also, if it stalls out, depending on the placement of the Immortals, you have that poke from Li Ming. You've got the added protection of Tassadar, which means you can go two different ways with Tassadar at level 4. You can go into the lifesteal to benefit Zul'jin, but you've got the Uther there, or you can go into the physical armor after that shield expires to deal with the Vala on the other side. So there's a couple different ways you can go into this. You know, we kind of saw the auto attack build into a very late game heavy auto attack build. The Creed of the Hunter at level 4, potentially going into Mana Core at 16. And we saw that yesterday. We didn't quite make it there. It works really well against a Stitches style hero because of his high health pool. I'm okay with the draft. I would have liked to have seen potentially another frontliner. But I look at this draft, Tassadar should be your solo laner. Zul'jin might end up being that hero going up against the Malthael. Malthael, because he's a melee going into a range, might be a little tricky.
Yeah.
But Zul'jin doesn't exactly have the best wave clear to start the game.
That is true. And for me, yeah, you're right. Malthael might have a little bit of a hard time. But what about their, in terms of like strategy here? Are they going to make a pick off first before actually getting into the Mortal? Which team can afford to actually make a race? Well,
that's the thing, is that if I'm on the side of Paeji and the gang, I'm looking at 3-2 split. I'm instantly saying Brightwing and Malthael in one lane, dominate that lane, because Li Ming and Tassadar aren't just going to shove in a lane, but your Vala, Ariel, and ETC can. So we'll see how that goes as we look at the teams. Drakon on the left. It's going to be Caesar on Uther, Winston on Li Ming, Daniel on Stitches, Brilliance on Zul'jin, and rounding it out will be Tassadar being played by Salus.
All right, on the red side, we've got Paeji and the gang, Nuxim on the Oriole, Paeji on the Brightwing, Dekurza on the ETC, Choicer here on the Malthael, and we've got Arata. Actually, they're combining forces. Choicer on the Vala and Arata on the Malthael.
Well, I talked about a 3-2 split. How about a 5-man push directly top? And again, I talked about the push potential. Zul'jin can actually contribute. If you don't have any damage coming towards Zul'jin, he can use his trait and get far more auto attack damage out. So not having anybody, a 3-2 split works out in the sense that Tass Vala, their wave clear is okay, but it's nothing that will just stand out. I would have loved to have seen if I'm Paeji in the game, go Malthael Brightwing top lane, dominate that top lane, have a 3-person that kind of holds. Instead, Paeji's actually the team that flinches first. Instead of having that dominant push that I think that they had superior there because of the Vala, they fall down and go to that 4-1 split.
Exactly, and they lost the well as well. Meanwhile, Drakon still gets to keep theirs. The hook onto Dekurza. The stun right in, but he's going to be okay as the heal comes in from Noxim on the Oriole.
And I'm glad you pointed that out because the well in the top lane for Drakon still stands. They did not take that well down. And that is a big deal to me in the sense that falling back to tap wells, especially because it's going to be top-bottom during the first phase, and if you have that prolonged fight, and let's say you're defending the bottom lane, you don't have the well to fall back on. Yes, you have double support, but I'd rather have every single advantage I can.
Exactly. It's going to really cut some resources there from the side of Paeji and the gang. Nice heals from their team, and Cesar is a bit chunked down, but here we go. Immortals have spawned.
And this is the part I was talking about, is that one team has the fallback option, the other one does not. We're going to see this, as we see Zul'jin get stunned out there. But Zul'jin, Li Ming, we're going to see how this stacks up as they have an early start here, but the power slide in on the multiple members, this follow-up stun. Caesar going in pretty deep. It looks like he's going to be punished. That's going to be our first blood as we've got a 1-for-1 trade.
Wow, Arada is very low. Paeji as well. He will be the next one to fall. 2 members down. Noxim will follow Arada. Looks like this might be a cleanup. Winston has no mana whatsoever. Choicer will scare him away, but that is 3 members down, and Drakon wins that one.
That's the thing. Winston on the Li Ming went into power hungry, which means you get more mana and more ability power when you pick up globes. But if you're in the prolonged fight here in the middle of the battleground, those are hard to come by. As you can see, Winston was forced to go up to get that. Gave up a little bit in terms of the race. They're still going to win it. But not going, say, Astral Presence or something like that to have extra mana regen when you're low.
Yes.
A little bit surprising there, but trying to get every ounce of damage out of the Li Ming.
Most likely that is the plan for Drakon as they secure their very first Immortal here. Paeji and the gang is going to be on defense. ETC just going to be chilling at the bot side of the map. But well played on that first fight from Drakon. Brilliance getting chucked down a little bit. It's going to be fine. Uther's there. But that was actually pretty scattered coming from Paeji earlier.
Well, early on, you're going to have a tough defense with a double support. Malthael going to try and do what he can, but the nice hook, the stun, that's the follow-up we're going to be looking for all game as Vala's going to go down. That's exactly how that works. You keep Uther standing right there beside Stitches. Stitches calls out the hook, throws down the hammer on Uther, and you follow up. Just wait till you hit level 7 where Li Ming gets the full combo and a Calamity. People are going to have a hard time surviving at that point. It's going to be up to good Crystal Aegis's, potentially the cleanse coming out from Brightwing, but you got to cleanse early, else you're going to have to hit that pixie dust to try and make sure and mitigate some of that damage. But a lot of low health targets on the side of Paeji in the game.
Exactly. Very well played by Drakon. They definitely know where to rotate. And again, earlier, if that's the first sign. You know, they flinched at the early rotation, pushing down the top side of the base of Drakon. Then it's a little bit scary. Like, what if that is going to be a trend? Uh-oh, they're going to
We've got the invade here. The power slide in by Dekurza. He's going to go ahead and try and zone him out with that face melt. Daniel trying to stay on there. The cleanse onto Stitches. They're going to walk away. A very aggressive approach by Drakon. Not able to secure it, so they're going to give up just a little bit. But Riku, they still got themselves a full level lead.
Exactly. Good thing. At least, though, that was a consolation prize to actually deny the camp away from Drakon, or else that's going to be another advantage for themselves. But level lead still on their side. Noxim going to stay at the bottom. 3-man rotation. Power slide in. Nice face melt. Polymorph. But that is a Tassadar.
Tough to kill.
Yep.
That's the thing. You just shift away. And yeah, I want to talk about the builds a little bit more because we're seeing Q build follow. And in return, we're actually seeing Dampen Magic onto Stitches, he's one of the few heroes that still has the traditional Dampen Magic, mitigates a lot of that spell damage, so taking advantage of that, we've seen heavy priority on the Slam build, but not this go around. A little bit surprising, making sure he gets the extra heals. He's going to be that stalwart. Again, I talked about going into the solo tank role, that solo heavy melee bruiser tank role. They're making sure to keep him alive. Dampen Magic and Amplified Healing going in to help him stay nice and healthy on the front.
Nicely done by Drakon on their strats, but looks like they're going to be starting their Immortals. Paeji and the gang already have a good amount of damage on towards the enemy Immortal. So we'll see. Drakon might be able to contest this as they are looking for the right hook, right opportunity. Will they get it? Winston with the pokes. Dekurza just blocking them out with the face melt. Arata is just landing in some pokes as well. Both of them are just feeling out the fields, zoning them away as they try to chunk down the Immortal.
They try and chunk it down. This is perfect for Drakon. Brightwing was forced to rotate down to deal with the Shaman camp, and I talked about having the superior poke. Li Ming is throwing orbs, throwing magic missiles, and there's almost nothing you can do about it with the double support, but Dekurza going in with the power side to cleanse onto Winston with using that hand of protection, going to keep him alive, and Daniel trying to zone out on the front.
And looks like Paeji and the gang is forced to reposition themselves as they're pretty low. But again, double support. As long as they get damage, the Curse actually enters the fight. He gets stunned by the Uther. Bye-bye Choicer. Bye-bye ETC. And that'll be the Immortals for Drakon's side yet again.
And this is scary right now, Riku. Drakon 9.5. They're going to be hitting level 10 as they push through this fort and tower. They're going to be on keep. Look for them to potentially take sidewall or just flat out aggress directly in, try and get that hook stun combo. They might try and end early here with this punish or this Immortal.
Yeah, that's a lot of window for Drakon to actually keep pushing, keep their aggression. Level 10 on their side. That means Paeji and the gang will definitely have a lot of hesitation. They just want to clear it out. Shield is still pretty healthy for the Immortals on their side. But lots of siege damage for Drakon.
Wall was down. He just missed the hook. He's got a few more seconds, so that's back up again. They get one pick, and this looks entirely different. As Putrid Bile is out. He's trying to zone, trying to get that slow on, allowing his team to push forward as well. They are not getting the pick. I expect them, after that hook misses, they need to fall back. You can have one more opportunity to look for a pick here, try and get some damage on, but fighting under a keep, regardless of heroics, not always your best bet, but they're looking to end here.
They're very persistent. They know that the Immortal is still alive, but it is about to die. They are forcing Choicer out, and Paeji actually gets hooked in. Still survives. Polymorph onto the Uther. A lot of low health member targets here for Drakon. There's the minions marching on towards the core, but they decide to just back away and respect that.
They stayed a little bit long, but they didn't have the threat of heroics. You can see they got a little bit low, had to back out, but they did, however, get 27% of the core health down. So Drakon taking every single inch that they could out of that Immortal.
Exactly, and Paeji and the gang still has to soak up just to reach level 10 to regain their fighting chance with these 5v5 or skirmishes against Drakon. So meanwhile, they secure the camp at the top side of the map. Here comes the rotation, probably looking for a pick, but that is scattered members from Paeji and the gang, bot side to top, but that's 5 people, the top side of the map.
Paeji and the gang picking up their Shaman camp really early, trying to get some experience by pushing forward as the hook just misses onto Dekur. I think if he gets hooked there, he goes down. But level 10, we talk about Mosh Pit, Riku. The ultimate game changer is now online.
I'm pretty excited how they're going to utilize that. Dekurza already has Mosh Pit. And meanwhile, Drakon definitely going to be a little bit more hesitant whenever they enter into these fights. They don't want to get wombo comboed here. But still, a camp is marching at the bot side of the map against Paeji and the gang, which gives a little bit more control, a little bit more time for Drakon to gain more map control, buy some time, and then the next Immortal is about to spawn. If Drakon gets this again, Paeji and the gang is definitely going to have a harder time.
They're going to have a very difficult time. Timed out is the Shaman camp at the bottom again. Brightwing does not have the best clear when it comes to trying to clear these camps. You have catapults and camps in the bottom lane. And you see on the minimap, Brightwing is stuck down there. Look for them to try and take a fight, however, here in just a minute. As you can see, Brightwing has now shifted in.
Uh-oh, there's the power slide in for Kurza. Mosh pit already being activated. Divine Shield there. Winston super low. They eliminate one. Who's the next target? Daniel low. CL is very low as well. Emerald Wind being used. Putrid Bile just for the disengage. But Brilliance just landing in some pokes just to try and scare them away. Immortal super low as well for Drakon's side. But looks like they are just going to reposition themselves. But they cannot do this anymore as Li Ming has fallen down to battle.
Paeji's going to go ahead and Hearth to deal with that camp. You don't have to worry about too much pressure. The catapults plus a camp are a little bit scary, but all it took was one solid mosh pit to come out there from ETC. You get one pick, you send the rest scattering. Just like that, Riku. Paeji finds themselves back in this game.
It looks like they were just waiting for the level 10. Drakon definitely very hesitant, but they found the right target. Looks like they're going to be able to clear this one out without the pressure of some of the members from Paeji and the gang. They managed to clear that out, but that's a bottom already open for Paeji, with the core actually being damaged, 73% already on its HP. It looks like they're going to be rotating at the top side. Meanwhile, Drakon still going to be a little bit more patient and push throughout this bottom. And wait for the camp.
I will say that I like the fact that Paeji played that a little bit cautiously. Generally, you could say, hey, why didn't you send multiple members to go up and try and push with this, use one person to defend the camp? It's because the Immortal allows teams to dive past the Immortal. It doesn't prioritize heroes except for that stun that comes out. And we've seen a lot of teams start to do that more and more lately. It's an old strategy. It seems to be more popular now than it has ever been before. You dive right past the Immortal, and you take the fight behind there. And if one person's missing, you are down the talent tier advantage. Instead, Paeji drop back, cleared. We saw Brightwing go to soak the other lane. They're trying to get 13, but Daniel and team looking. We're going to see the hook go out here in just a moment to look for that stun lockdown. Dekers is like, peace out. I'm not going to be anywhere near that hook.
I'm out. He says, Paeji and the gang, looks like all heroics are back online. No picks whatsoever coming from Drakon, as they will be getting more map control here, getting the waves pushed in their favor for both lanes. Paeji and the gang forced to actually get denied of the camp at the top side of the map. So again, Drakon just adding more pressure. And then it's just perfect timing because the Immortal is about to spawn as well.
That's the thing, is that 13's here. You're only down a level. You're on even talent tiers. The Shaman camp's here. They're trying to sniff this out and be aggressive. They're going for another invade. But the fact that we, again, have the ETC mosh pit as a threat, they're not willing to commit just yet, as Dekers is a little late to the party. He eats an entire Li Ming combo there on his way in.
Ouch. I think they really want that perfect setup that happened earlier near the Immortals, where Drakon is going to be distracted. So their Immortals spawned actually topside. Kurza is looking for that power slide, gets the stitches, blocking his way.
No! Oh my, that is Stun City right there, saved by Ariel. It's like, look, I know you're about to be stunned by the Immortal, but let me give you a hand. I'm really surprised. Man,
wow.
Noxum got to be a little bit more patient on that detainment strike.
Exactly. Kurza very low at this point, and I'm pretty sure he's just looking for that timing. They still have a lot of heroics online. Moshpit looking for what happened earlier, and Kurza actually rotating at the backside.
Trying to get the flank. He's got to get Li Ming in that slide if he's going to use the mosh pit. Instantly deleted there as two members are traded here 1-for-1 so far. The fight rages on. Putrid Bile trying to get out of there, but we see Arata going in on Malthael, cleaning house as 4 members go down. Crystal Aegis going to save the damage from Li Ming. We're going to see if Li Ming can finish this off. Somebody needs to try and zone this out. You can't just let Li Ming get free damage here. The detainment strike. Ooh.
Almost.
Almost.
Looks like it's going to be the Orioles going to be distracting and zoning away the Li Ming, but that is still a long ways off. But good thing there's the Vala
taking core
still.
damage, by the way.
Oh my. ETC already there to defend, but that's top side being pressured as well by a camp, still not being cleared as Winston is still finding the damage, but here comes Brilliance. Oh, so close.
So close. Noxum did a very good job dealing with the Li Ming, and then of course the Zul'jin rotating in there at the last minute. And despite giving up core damage, some people are like, oh, it's on the core, but you got to think about the fact that Paeji, because they're on a timer for the entire game from here on out, because of the catapults, they have to take fights like that. They have to be willing to commit, to give up a little bit, to gain a lot in return. They recognize they were very far down in the Immortal race, so you pick that fight, they got the kills. Again, they're playing it safer here. I like the call to play it safe last time, but this is now 2 Immortals in a row to where you don't even get a fort. I think at some point, the aggression that you just showed getting the Immortal, you need to take with it afterwards.
Exactly, but Drakon chunked out that Immortal super quick. The Paeji and the gang just roaming around here on this bottom side. They're going to be contesting this camp. They don't want to give it to you. But meanwhile, look at that, Daniel Lol, CL. There's the face melt. Let's see what's going to happen here as the Curze super low power slides out to safety. Putrid Bile, Emerald Wind being used. Heroics here and there, but that is the support going down. Oriel, ETC, Vala rather, going down as Paeji is going to be in deep trouble.
Winston making the plays on Li Ming. Ice block perfectly timed there. Pop goes the Brightwing, and down goes Paeji and the gang as now the march to victory for Drakon comes in as they're going to take game number 1 to start the day on Battlefield of Eternity.
That was such a risky play. I mean,
Dance party.
Dance party to Kurza. He's going to hook you back in. Sing you some Christmas song. Oh wait, it's too early for that. But anyway, congratulations to Drakon for winning our first set for this day against Paeji and the gang.
Good start, I think, there for Drakon.
Yes.
Did you say it's too early for Christmas music?
Right, it's not too early.
It's right, it's not too early. But, you know, Drakon compositionally had superior race in certain departments. When you get that early start, they were able to clear, forced out a lot. But the fact that they were able to get a few picks, play that appropriately, and they had the 2-level lead at level 10. They forced the keep down, things like that. They played it really well. Things got a little bit shaky, but you got to credit Paeji and the gang for recognizing that despite the fact that you could race that because you have really good race with the Vala, is that you needed to take the fight. I would have loved to have seen them. The first Immortal I talked about, it's fine that you fall back, you defend the core, but there's a certain thing. So you have, if this is your middle line, these are your cores, and your Immortal is pushing, and there's one catapult back here. It's an early catapult. You can let it push. You ignore the minion wave. Yes, it's good to have your minion wave up there so that it can eat tower shots once the Immortal goes down. But if you ignore like the 1 or 2 catapults there, they're not going to do core damage. You can let that go. And instead of letting that go, they rotated everybody back to clear that as fast as possible. They couldn't make their way up. They sent Brightwing top, which is fine because you have that global. But the fact that they were not willing to let that go, I understood when you're down 2 levels and down a talent tier earlier. But this time, they had a prime opportunity to try and really take a grasp and control the game, get it back, fight under that Immortal, and try and win that fight. Take the Immortal, take the fort. If you get a pick or 2, then you can possibly take keep wall, possibly take the keep if you get a full team wipe. And the fact that, they recognize their opportunities. I think they had like that one small window. And then if we would go back to that last fight, ETC was 10 seconds away from Mosh Pit. And that is your ultimate counter towards that team. And if you try and take that fight too early, you're going to struggle. And instead, Dekurza went the other direction to get out of the fight. And that was a bad spot, I think, for Paeji and the gang. Got a little bit too overconfident there.
Definitely. It looks like we're going to see a replay from the key moments of that match from earlier. Let's take a look at that Immortal mosh pit there from Dekurza. That was the perfect setup. That was a 3-man mosh pit. Winston very low, and they just cleaned up everybody. That is the Putrid Bile actually being used just for disengage, and that's how they won their first fight.
That helping hand from Stitches that kind of snuck in at the bottom of the screen there. Really, really good job. I got to credit Arata on the side of Paeji and the gang. I thought he played Mouthfeel pretty well. And here it is again. This is the fight that they needed to take. Dekurza goes in, lands the key mosh, except he didn't catch Winston there on Li Ming inside it. You cannot execute that mosh without getting Li Ming. That's the biggest counter.
Sure.
But again, I talked about Arata. He goes in and just absolutely obliterated that team.
Exactly, and this is what we were talking about earlier, how, 10 seconds in, there's all the stuns. That was actually the perfect setup. Everybody is just cramped up in this single area. It's just so unfortunate he didn't have Mosh Pit at that time.
And that's the thing, is that you have to be communicating that to your team. You have to say, look, I don't have Mosh. We can't take this fight. You're going to see the ice block as Winston is like, look, that's a free skill shot. Free skill shot. I think everybody just kind of finished it there. But that's the thing, is that there were moments that looked really good there for Paeji and the gang, even playing down. Playing down 2 levels, losing the keep 7.5 minutes, I think, into the game, 8 minutes into the game, taking core damage at 8 minutes into the game. You got to give them credit for staying in the game as long as they did. I think if they just kind of were a little bit more patient on that last fight, maybe a little bit more aggressive on that second Immortal, they could have been okay. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to Game 2. I don't think, again, and we talked about Battlefield of Eternity in the lead-up, is that this is a team fight-oriented map. Maybe Paeji and the gang takes them to a Dragonshire, like I talked about, seeing them in previous qualifiers that I think that they did well on.
Yeah, Paeji and the gang, again, is a very experienced team as well. And I'm quite happy to actually see Drakon show their stuff here on their very first stream in this tournament. So with Drakon, it seems like they're also very clean in execution. They definitely know what to do, except that there are certain windows of opportunities for Paeji and the gang that they could take advantage of, and they definitely knew their strengths for Paeji's side, as, they were just waiting for level 10, and okay, this is our time to shine. They executed it well, but again, just as you mentioned, that fight at the bot side was just very unfortunate.
The ultimate game changer of Mosh Pit. You either have it or you don't. It's a win if it works and it's beautiful. But then Li Ming, that was the thing, is that sometimes you'll see Li Mings, they'll hold their heroics. And you can almost make the argument that you could have gone Disintegrate if you're opting to try and end the game. It's like going Infinite Archon at level 20, right?
Yeah.
If you know you're about to siege up, that's the level 20 that you lock in. But they knew that they were playing for the long game, went ahead and locked in a Wave of Force and dealt with the Mosh Pit the second time around, positioning on point for Winston. I really want to credit that Li Ming pickup. You talked about they used that in qualifiers last weekend.
Yes.
They picked it up here. Superior poke when it came to the stall phase. They did a really good job, Drakon, timing their Shaman camp, making sure to play around the map objective, and I think that they did that. And I was actually really impressed with Drakon. For my first time seeing them, I think that they handled themselves very well today.
Same here. It seems like they're the type of team that really likes to have a lot of map control, have a lot of pressure against the enemy side, so they have more room to breathe. So they can move around and take advantage of this. But looks like we're going to be having our second map, Braxis, being chosen by Drakon.
Yeah, another 2-lane map, and it's something that, after what we saw last game, could very easily fit into this one. We saw really good Stitches play on that front line, understanding when to engage. It's kind of like when he used it, he locked in. He held Gorge, and he's like, you know what, Putrid Bile, let's try and end this thing. Went in, played well, landed some good hooks that game. We saw the one up at the top that kind of started things with that first Immortal.
Yes.
We saw the lockdown, the hook into the Uther. They recognized their composition, played to it very well. So no surprise, I think they're going to another 2-lane map, so I like the fact that they're taking control of that.
Yeah. What do you think are the priorities here? Is it going to be Stitches? Definitely. We've seen a lot of Stitches in this tournament, and I'm happy to see that from all of the teams, it's like everybody just favors Stitches.
It's hard to blame him. I mean, you got to play around Mosh Pit if you're going ATC. Murden, he's a really good all-around hero, but does he bring that huge playmaking potential that you get basically from the minute the game starts till the minute it ends? And so I think a lot of people love Stitches. His incredibly high health pool is the diversity between the slam build, which does a lot of damage, and then you get to 16, you get the big slow on it, or, as we saw last game, to deal, being that solo tank, going into dampen magic and amplified healing, which really helped him survive in a lot of those fights. So those are things that I think worked out well for him.
Yeah, I mean, when is it the right time to actually pick up the Gorge?
It's weird. Most of the time, Putrid Bile is where it's at.
Yeah.
I think Gorge is one of those things, it's more map dependent. You don't necessarily want to use it on a big wide open map like a Sky Temple or even like a late game Infernal Shrines unless you know you have that lockdown. We saw the whole, you can grab Lucio, it's like just run away with him, right? There's certain compositions I think that it's good. You got to have the right single target blow up. It's like if you're running a Gul'dan type combo, it's like, all right, we use Gorge, we drop them off here. Well, you're not killing them with Gul'dan, but if you run something like Li Ming, you just focus target, maybe run a Malfurion, drop them off on some roots, just
burst that
instant
person
lockdown.
Down. Yeah.
There's a story from last year. I think it was BlizzCon of last year. Maybe it was one of the Gamescom. I remember talking to Fnatic, and it was Cursed Hollow. They had the Li Ming, Malfurion, Stitches. They were running the Gorge, and Shrimpy's on Li Ming. Breeze obviously playing Stitches. And they would get the Gorge in. They'd go, and it was a highly contested game. It was really exciting.
All right.
And he goes, and every time he would go to drop him off at the last minute, he's like, oh, I got to turn him this way as Stitches. So he's dropping him off. And Shrimpy was missing every single skill shot. They couldn't get the kill, so they got all these gorges, and everybody kept getting away. And I remember Quacknix was talking about, like, in comms, or I think it was during Breeze's stream, he's like, eventually, he's yelling at me, stop turning him around, you know. As easy as it sounds, even the best teams in the world still got to work out some of those kinks. But again, I think Drakon executed their comp pretty well in game 1.
Definitely. So we'll see if they're going to be showing something different or they're going to be playing what already works for them. As Drakon, again, they have a really healthy pool of heroes to utilize. Paeji and the gang still favors that double support, but it didn't work out in their favor during the early phases of the game, which is understandable for their composition. Again, it seems like Paeji and the gang really favors that wombo combo team fight sort of thing.
And it's double support again. It's tricky. You know, I see the Ariel Brightwing, and it's really hard to say, oh, this isn't that great. But again, we've seen a huge drop-off from Ariel. Huge drop-off from Ariel. Going into the Brightwing, I think Paeji actually played it well, knowing when to go back and soak, when to clear up the lanes. You know, those things are moments that you can recognize. We didn't see the impactful Emerald wins that I think that, you know, we were expecting to see in those team fights. And again, it's one of those things, it's kind of like the Tyrael, right? You need to get that power slide in, then Brightwing kind of be on top, split the team unless you're going in for that mosh pit. You have multiple ways to utilize that. We didn't quite see that in game 1, but again, you know, it's Brightwing. Maybe okay on Battlefield of Eternity, not my top choice, but we are going to be heading into Game 2 on Brax's Holdout. I'd be really surprised if we see the Brightwing Ariel
again
this game.
Yeah.
We'll find out soon.
Yeah, I mean, seeing how Drakon plays with, you know, adding a lot of map pressure, I'm just very curious what they're going to be drafting this time around as we head into game number 2 between Paeji and the gang and Drakon. I'm really, really excited here for Braxis. And so if their problem is, you know, spreading out the clears, what do you think would be a nice other damage dealer has nice clear to pair up with the Vala just in case? Like, they used Brightwing to actually go back to the other lane and actually clear it out for them, but that's not as effective as the others, right? What would you pair it up with?
It's very dependent on the enemy team. If the enemy team has a heavy engaged team, instantly you think Gul'dan, right? But Gul'dan Vala is a very susceptible team to dive. So if you're going to try and pick up that, if you pick up an early Vala, you kind of want to save your second damage dealer towards the end. And there's a lot of good options that you can kind of pair with that. Even if you get the Tassadar especially, that's technically your second damage dealer. That can be your double support that can work really well. Has good wave clear, especially if you go into the Scion Fusion at level 1, especially on this battleground. Get that Psionic Echo at 16 if you make it that far. Really good clear on that Zerg wave in case you lose. So it's things like that. It's kind of very enemy comp dependent more than it is your own comp dependent. So we'll see. If you end up going the Ariel again, you can go into the Gul'dan, feel a lot better about it in this one. So, you know, Braxis holdout for me, if I have an opportunity, if I'm playing Braxis holdout, I'm saying, look, I'm going to go Gul'dan. I need somebody to Ariel, and we'll win this game, right?
Yeah.
It's a very tried and true thing. I think that with the Ariel change, I wonder how that would fit into the post-level 7 that we generally see is you can generate a lot of hope, but are you getting the amount of heals that you need?
Exactly.
So we'll see.
I remembered back then, I'm not sure if I think it was last season where they favored Sylvanas and Braxis holdout. What do you think of that? Not a fan.
I'm not a huge fan. I've seen it pulled off. Dignitas did it, I believe, at the last Clash. Galeforce, I know, has tried to run some things like that. As we head into Game 2's draft here on Braxis Holdout, we'll see if any of these teams try and bring these strategies out.
We'll see how they're going to deal with this because usually they always go for the usual Genji, although I'm not quite sure if Genji is going to be effective in this battlefield for Braxis Holdout. But again, Oriel's definitely going to be a priority for both of these teams, taking out the Tassadar right away.
Taking the Tassadar off, I think, is the absolute best thing. But the way it works, though, now is you can now lock in the Ariel for yourself. And that's kind of thing. It's like, look, we're not picking Tassadar. We want the Ariel, but if you ban the Ariel, then we have a backup option. The fact that they go into this, I'd be surprised if this is anything but Ariel.
Don't want to give that away to Drakon. They also play a good Oriel based from the qualifiers here. And looking at Paeji and the gang's support pool, again, very, very healthy. Tyrande, Lily, Stukov are the ones that haven't been streamed yet, as far as I know. But we'll see, though. Again, Oriel definitely a priority, but they're taking their sweet time, though. Normally, people just auto lock Oriel.
And that's the thing is, with the changes to Ariel, you get more hope if you hit enemies in the center of your sweeping. I like to call them ribbons there.
Yeah,
I love the way it sounds.
The lasso.
The lasso, yeah. You get more hope if you hit them in the center, which teams are more clumped up. Instead, we see the priority on Stitches. But you also get more hope if you hit the Detainment Strike and get the stun, which it means that you have to be far more skillful on your Ariel. I think it's easier on Brax's holdout than it is on most Battlegrounds because of the contention over the beacon. But Stitches, first pick, I'm cool with that too.
Yeah, I really think Paeji and the gang already anticipated the priority for Drakon to get Stitches, because at first rotation pickings, Drakon immediately got Stitches at the first rotation. So for Vala, is this a Vala Oriel? It's a Vala Brightwing instead. So they're just going to leave Oriel with just out in the open.
Rika, we talked about it earlier.
Yes.
Haven't seen any Garrosh yet.
It's open.
But, oh my goodness. You know, with a high health pool of Stitches, he just walks up to the point. He's like, I'm standing here. I'm going to hold this for my team. You can't move me. And Garrosh's like, I can.
Yeah.
You know, I'd love to see a Garrosh pick up on this Battleground. Especially early game, if you think about how close the towers are, you get that extra throw range at level 1. You toss them over the wall. You toss them near your towers. Now all of a sudden they're taking not only just hero damage, but they're taking structure damage early game. We'll see. I don't know if any team is willing to commit to it just yet. If they've had the practice time, we'll find out soon.
Yeah, I mean, qualifiers, they didn't use Paeji and the gang, neither Drakon as well. They didn't use Garrosh, but they decided to go for Lieutenant Morales and Paeji and the gang, which they didn't use in qualifiers, but they really love them supports. Lieutenant Morales.
And we saw that yesterday. It wasn't this team, but we saw the hook into the grenade, and they were always on point. The grenade doesn't cost a whole lot for Morales. You get the hook in, you throw the grenade, you get the extra knockback. It's a little bit different than the hard CC, but it's still effective. So we'll see how that plays out if Paeji and the gang can execute that themselves. But I'm telling you, I would absolutely love to see me a Garrosh pick for Drakon if they practiced it.
If they practice it. We'll see. I mean, it's very risky, but it's do or die this time around. This is the lower bracket. If they lose here, then it's GG. Bye-bye. But going back to the Lieutenant Morales grenade, for the composition of Paeji and the gang, if they're going to utilize that grenade for an aggressive standpoint, then that would require them to have more defensive things like disengage, because Lieutenant Morales is just going to be a sitting duck if that disappears.
But when you commit to the Vala Brightwing, you instantly say that you're going into double support. You're not going to run a solo Brightwing.
True.
So if I'm Paeji in the gang and I'm thinking who can get onto Morales safely and really disrupt things, I'm banning Tahaka here. Great solo laner for Drakon, holds down that top lane, and has the potential to come into one of the vents, the bushes there, get on that back line, get onto Morales. We saw it attempted yesterday, not to great effect. But that is the biggest single threat unless you're going into something. Genji's off the board. Unless you're opting to go into something like a Zeratul, which would be a little crazy against this composition.
Paeji, and you mean for Drakon?
For
right?
Drakon. So if I'm Paeji, I'm thinking Tahaka, I don't want to deal with it at all.
Definitely is going to be a very huge threat for Morales. But then again, they're taking their sweet time on what their final ban is going to be. Time to hold our breaths. One. They decide.
Okay.
I saw your sad face. Okay, now that's Tahaka. Like, a lot of things are open on the table now. So, we'll see. Drakon still have yet to get their frontliner in. I mean, Stitches is out of the table, taken away from Paeji and the gang. Looking at their tank, they are...
You've still got Ariel available.
They do. They do. They could have banned Oriel for Paeji. Arthas and Nubarak, they've played Tyrael as well, and ETC. They can also play ETC. So that might be perfect for the Morales, against the Morales, if they don't play Tahaka.
But the grenade is just like a force of will in that it can interrupt your mosh pit.
True that.
I mean, if we saw it yesterday, if you're going to commit to something like that, if we see the Uther picked up here to go with that, then you either need to Divine Shield the Mosh Pit or you need to pre-cleanse the Mosh Pit. They go into the Murden, that stalwart that can stay on that front line. They go into Arthas, who should presumably be that solo laner.
Indeed. Arthas being secured here for Drakon. Are they going to be going solo damage? Or are they going to get another support?
I just seen that Arthas pick up, Riku. I would have loved if you just say, instead of Arthas, take away those letters and put L-E-O-R-I-C. Deal with the stitches as needed. You have the Entomb there. The Rexar pick.
Whoa.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking. Rexar versus Arthas is going to be a fun one because Arthas has low mobility. That should be the battle of the solo laner. However, with Brightwing already picked up, I am more than okay with sending Brightwing to the top to deal with that Rexar, to control that solo lane as needed. The Kael'thas pickup, that's who I was hoping we would get as a secondary damage dealer here on the side of Paeji and the gang. They're under almost no threat. Murden's going to have to dive into that backline. Arthas is going to have a hard time walking in there. This is going to be a fun game for me here. I love me some Rexar, Riku.
Indeed, Paeji and the gang, I can see a lot of zoning, good CC, really a lot of damage, high damage output from their side. So, just as you mentioned, Drakon is going to have a difficult time walking in, and it puts Drakon in the position whether they're going to be locking, they need another healer, or they need another damage dealer. They need another healer.
They need another healer. Brightwing does give you the control, I mean, unless you're going like a triple warrior Zarya, which is like a pseudo healer, pseudo shield there. Brightwing does give you the pixie dust that gives you the spell armor now to deal with the Kael'thas, but with a very melee heavy team.
They went with another damage dealer.
They go with another damage dealer, going with the solo Brightwing. Solo Brightwing versus a Greymane and Kael'thas. That is a scary prospect.
I mean, I'm not gonna. I mean, for Lunara, it's really you're gonna put yourself at risk with a Kael'thas, with a Rexar there. So I'm a little bit worried. But although it's tricky,
The one thing that will work out really well, the Lunara player, you have to spread damage. Doing single target damage early game, pre-7, before Splintered Spear is the least effective way to use it. And the reason being is that the one thing that Lieutenant Morales struggles with is AoE damage. You don't necessarily have that with Vala. You need to be able to spread that damage around. Just randomly pop off. Right-click here, right-click there, right-click there. Hit those targets. The problem is you're only going to be hitting stitches, and that's the hardest thing. But if anybody groups up, the best way to deal with a Lieutenant Morales on Brax's holdout for now, because the reworked Morales no longer has a mana pool, is to deplete her of mana. And the best way to do that is AoE damage, and one of the most effective ways to do that is with poison damage. But again, with a solo Stitches, it's going to be difficult, but it's not impossible when teams start to contest those beacons. That's where I want to see Lunara really come into play. I'm surprised that's the case. We're going to see if they can pull it off.
I'm just really looking forward to this match because these two teams really will depend on execution plus the positioning on whoever gets to control the beacons first. Because if I look at, Paeji and the gang's composition, they have a lot of zoning tools. You have to fear the hook in. You have to fear the Kael'thas AoE damage. You have to fear a lot of things on their side. And meanwhile, for the side of Drakon, it's tricky because you really have to sacrifice your safe positioning to actually scare them away. So maybe they will play around with the cooldowns. Like, for example, if the hook misses, if Kael'thas, his cooldowns are down, then probably that's a small time frame where they can actually be a little bit more aggressive.
You'll know you're on point if you get the hook into the gravity labs. That's your point that you're trying to make, is that you have to get the hook into the gravity laps. You have the Greymane to follow that up. That is killer damage. Early game kill potential is there from the minute the game starts. From Stitches, hopefully we'll be seeing the Slam build this go around. Does really well, especially get late into the game. Talk about getting those gravity lapses. If you don't have the hook available, you get to level 16. You go into the bigger arc on the Slam. You go into the bigger damage, helps for the wave clear. Things like that. Makes skill shots a lot easier. Gives you a lot more control, especially we talk about Executioner on Greymane at level 16. Kael'thas, easier to hit gravity lapses. So the build for Stitches is going to be a point of contention for me. I think there's a lot you can make of it, but we're ready here for game number 2 on Brax's Holdup.
Super duper hyped here for game number 2. Are we going to be seeing a game number 3? We'll find out as Drakon already has 1 point up their sleeves here.
And on the left side will be Drakon as Freak back in action here. He's going to be on the Arthas, Brilliance on Lunara. We're going to have Winston on Vala, Caesar on Brightwing, and Daniel on Muradin.
Alrighty, for Paeji in the game, we've got Choicer on the Kael'thas, Dekurza on the Stitches, Paeji on the Greymane, Noxim on Lieutenant Morales, and for the top side, we've got Rexar there on Arata. I mean, Arata on the Rexar. Arata suddenly turns into a hero.
That's fine with me. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. If you've ever heard me cast the Kael'thas game, I am not a fan of Convection. Not a fan. And the fact that you have such an easy condition to go into Mana Addict with globes aplenty give you that added protection for a solo support.
Wow. All right.
Lieutenant Morales. Okay, there. At least the attempt was there. Holding your gravity lapse. That's the other thing, is that you're going to be throwing out gravity lapses presumably every 16 seconds to follow up on the hook, which is the hook cooldown time. That's my problem, is that not going into Mana Addict, when you get to late game, your attempts are going to be few. Very few, as the gravity lapse misses.
Living Bomb, definitely not going to be enough just yet. Brilliance landing in some autos onto Paeji, but Lieutenant Morales just behind his back for the healing.
I'm just so happy to see me some Rexar.
He's chilling at the top.
The one thing that's going to be easy, if you go questing talent level 4, we're going to have the Howling Blast going out, obviously. Got level 1 questing talent. Then level 4 will be even easier. Just let Misha stand near you. Listen to the dings count up.
Yes, sirree. Meanwhile, for Paeji, they're finding the right opportunity. Brilliance a little bit up to front. Here comes the slam. Hook will not connect on either Winston or Brilliance, but the beacon's about to spawn in 10 seconds and less. And
regardless if they're missing, I am so satisfied with seeing Paeji and the gang be on the same page. We see the hooks into the gravity lapse, missing or not, as Greymane going in. That's going to be a huge point for them to go in, as the Flame Strike's hitting multiple targets, the Living Bomb going off as well. Daniel holding on the point for the moment, but he is very low. Now both beacons are channeled. Rexar and team and Misha going to have a very easy time top lane. This bottom lane, the fact that Paeji and the gang is already controlling that, very good, but Kael'thas, again, no Mana Addict. Of course, it's hard early game. The Kael'thas forced to retreat. Rico, they got themselves 44% channeled already.
they did, and it's definitely because you saw how they're very outsustained. Paeji, as the Greymane, can just leap inside, and once it gets a little bit too sticky, then go outside again and reposition himself, get some more heals from Lieutenant Morales. But meanwhile, we've got Drakon adding a little bit of pressure at the bot side of the map, but Paeji just gonna keep wreaking some damage here on the side of Drakon as they control the bot side beacon.
I'll say this, given the early game damage potential they have with the slam build, Convection being started up, and having the Greymane, and against the solo Brightwing, I love the fact that we're seeing early aggression coming out here from Paeji on that Greymane as he continues to go in. But now they've got the damage in return. Lieutenant Morales keeping everybody up, but the hook's going to land. There's our first blood onto Brilliance, but on the backside, Paeji goes down.
Wow, Paeji in exchange for the life of Lunara. Nicely done hook coming from Dekurza from earlier. But meanwhile, we've got Rexar just chilling at the top side, and that's Arthas not being able to be as effective just yet, as he hasn't really, joined his comrades yet.
And that's the thing, going into solo Brightwing, I was going to say, it makes it hard to use that phase shift up, but because they've got that kill traded there, they're going to go up. And Rexar, dare I say, Misha is like, that's cool. I'm still here. Like, good luck. And now there's no healer bottom, so that small window of opportunity they had to try and claim that beacon is now lost.
Exactly. Do you think Lunar's going to get that lifesteal, Helen? No.
I doubt it, but it might almost be necessary. Brightwing's forced to come down here, Riku. This is what solo support Brightwing is going to have issues with.
Exactly.
Go contest the beacon. Go, Dekurza.
Oh, no. It's ramping up. 70% already. Daniel actually very low with a Living Bomb. Paeji knows he's going to leap out there. Daniel's still going to be safe for now as Brilliance tries to land the autos, but boom! Just explodes from all the damage. And that, again, Paeji is going to get 100%, 0% for Drakon.
Paeji's draft just looking so much better right now, Riku. They've got the 100% Zerg wave with absolutely nothing in return. 14 stacks onto Convection for Kael'thas. And for what it's worth, those last few fights has actually paid dividends.
Yep.
Despite me desperately wanting mana added.
Well, he made it work. Paeji and the gang definitely got the upper hand on this, and they're clear. Drakon is just going to suffer 2 times as much damage on Siege, as they're going to have a problem clearing those Zergs out of the way. Paeji and the gang continues their dominance here on the first 5 minutes of the match. Brilliance, again from earlier, just exploded. Could not find the correct position, as there's a lot to worry about. Stitches. I was about to say Kael'thas, KT. Kael'thas, rather. Drakon.
Level 7 Misha talent is one of my favorite sleeper OP talents in the game. Aspect of the Beast. Every time Misha auto-attacks, it lowers the cooldown of Misha charge by 1.25 seconds. Her charge is on a 10-second cooldown. Or 10 seconds. Okay. Oh my goodness. Did I just make my own point moot? But either way, it's on 10 seconds, right? So every time you get the auto attack, you get 3 or 4 auto attacks. Her attack speed is incredibly low. I think it's like 0.67 maybe. But it's incredibly low. But you get 2 to 3 auto attacks in. Misha's charge is like an ETC power slide.
Yes.
The whip is huge. It's easy to control. And even if you lose Misha going in on a pseudo power slide, it's incredibly powerful. When it comes to team fighting and the Kael'thas potential, Kael'thas ETC was like the dominant thing summer of 2016. I want to see when these team fights get to a 5-on-5, the Misha power slide into a Kael'thas gravity lapse, somebody just explodes. I'm so looking forward to this happening.
That's the perfect combo. There's the hook onto Daniel, but that's the Mirrodin. Gravity lapse onto 2 targets. Brilliance just forced to run away. Daniel as well. Jakurza still in the front line, gaining some heals. Paeji and the gang is just dominant at this point. Their composition, very solid. Level 10 as well. Drakon has to respect that.
They got to respect that. Quick update for you. 15 stacks out of 20 for the Convection, getting dangerously close to completing that. You want to make sure that you do finish that, get that big damage when that's completed, and then once you hit 20, you don't have to worry about tying anymore.
Exactly.
You still don't want to, but at least you don't have to worry about resetting.
Yep. Choicer, definitely a very effective Kael'thas player, but at this point, beacons already spawning. Drakon, what are you going to do? Still not level 10. This is very tricky. Very difficult. I mean, back before pre-level 10, they're already having a hard time deciding to secure camps, but Paeji and the gang just one step ahead, zoning them away, and they managed to secure that one. But hook will not connect. We'll see. They're getting choked down a little bit, but gonna heal right back up.
Gonna heal up. And level 10 is close for Drakon, but I don't know if it'll be in time, as we see Arthas is now controlling, now going in. The polymorph in return. Jakurza eating a lot of damage, but now he's healed up. Lieutenant Morales is here, keeping him alive. Jakurza is zoning out against the Morales. Got to be careful. Come back. Come home, buddy. Come home.
Oh, wow. Just munching into a minion. Just half HP plus Morales heal. And there you go. Level 10 still for... Level 10 already, rather, for Drakon. And definitely going to have a harder time. I like the combo, the Putrid Bile onto the Phoenix, just gonna let you bathe into the fire there a little bit more. Oh my, look at that. Daniel gets the gravity lapse. Avatar out, I'm out. Paeji very low.
Choicer's got to get out of here. Choicer's got to get out of here. He's so low, he has not completed his Convection stacks. Morales has got to keep him alive at least a few moments longer.
Wow.
That was close there. And I talked about post-level 7 with Splintered Spear for Lunara against Morales. We also see Thornwood Vines, which is another way to spread that poke damage. As speaking of spreading, Putrid Bile is out. Brilliance under all kinds of pressure. Greymane team going in, and Rexar helps seal the deal as Brightwing goes down. So does Murd, and the hook's going to land onto Winston. Should they get the follow-up? We're about to find out. Choicer's like, hey, look, I got my Convection finished. This thing hurts. See you later.
My. Level 12, Paeji and the gang, and only Arthas left to keep soaking that top side of the map, decides to go for the boss. But that is just, you know, flawless execution on Paeji and the gang side. So many instances where Stitch's Decurso was about to die, but because of the Morales heal, no one's actually pressuring the Morales, no one can dive into the Morales, and Drakon is just, their composition is very, very hard to execute at this point against Paeji.
Things working out very well with this composition for Paeji. Solo Brightwing is struggling to keep up. And again, going Emerald win, not even going into the blink heal for that. You get better base healing, better passive healing for Brightwing, but you don't get that burst healing from the blink heal and the mobility there. A little bit surprising, but level 13 picked up. Paeji marching towards this bottom keep as the boss is being forced up on the top. The hook, there's the Emerald win. It's going to go out for the moment, but Caesar in all kinds of trouble. The grenade knocks him away, but the Phoenix does prioritize heroes and gets the kill onto Brightwing.
No problem, even though the grenade was used just to push the Brightwing to safety, it's fine. Paeji and the gang has a lot of room for little mistakes like these. Drakon is definitely, we are gonna see a game number 3 again this tournament. I like this set. I like our set of matches this time around. Drakon still trying to defend as 5 members are marching down to the core. A lot of Zerg still alive. Cesar is right back in. There's a stun onto Winston, being zoned out by Misha, but look at that. Paeji is still pretty healthy at this point. Finishes off the Brightwing. Arata might be a little bit in too deep, as Drakon still survives the onslaught. Never mind, gravity lapse. Oh,
I thought Lunara was coming in to clean house. Decurs, I believe that's enough poison damage, but it doesn't matter. He goes down. Well, Lunara just started spreading out the damage. Ended up trading there, but you got to think they saved their core.
They did.
98%. Again, not all is lost. I mean, you're down a keep, but you still have the tools to come back. Vala just needs to get a bit more damage out, get on even talent tiers, get that unfair advantage on Lunara. You might actually just see greater spell shield just because the solo Brightwing and the Kel'Thas damage that's been coming out. You can see Lunara holding on, but go into the unfair advantage, recognizing that it might be more advantageous to get more damage out with that poison. Get that extra damage on those targets that are slowed and poisoned and all that. You've got the Arthas, you've got your own poison going out there. Try and put it out. When we get to sustain fights, Riku, that actually might be one of the big turning points. Brilliance risking it all here, not going greater spell shield, trying to confirm some kills going forward.
Alrighty, I cannot wait to see that execution from Drakon whenever they go for these team fights. But both of these teams are on opposite sides of the map, one top, one bottom. Definitely understandable why Paeji is here, as the core is right open. They're going to be scouting for a target to take, as Arthas Freak is just going to be chilling right there. Actually, probably spots the rotation here for Paeji and the gang. We'll see as they have to clear this camp, marching on their base.
Should be a quick clear. Level 16 double flame strike is going to be absolutely terrifying for Drakon to deal with from Kel'Thas. I want to talk about Kel'Thas since he did not go Mana Addict. He's not willing to commit to the cooldown reduction at 13, instead opting to go Backdraft, which gives you slow, 30% slow on enemies hit by Living Bomb for 2 seconds. Again, I talked about Stitches, who's gone into Slam build. You've got to expect him to go into that Slam at level 16. I'm a little bit surprised Executioner is going to be really good for Greymane post level 16, but a bit surprised. But again, not wanting to deal with the mana issues with that cooldown reduction, spamming those abilities. Go with another talent, not a bad pickup.
Not a bad pickup indeed. Look at that. Daniel is just going to hop right in. Where's his target? Rain of Vengeance stuns 2 targets. That is going to be the cleanse. Paeji is just going to be repositioning himself as Freak is super low. Phoenix, whoa, look at that huge Phoenix. Cesar is very low. Living Bomb won't be able to finish him off, but that's a stun from Misha. Freak is going to run, and let's see, Hook will not connect, but that is Drakon just going to respect all the damage in the world.
Level 16, close here for Paeji. I talked about double flame strike, and we talk about going into convection. I am terrified for the solo Brightwing, but so far holding is Drakon in these fights as of late. They're going to try and get a bit more, but using this advantage, recognizing Muradin's bottom, they're going to try and put pressure top. I'm afraid they might be looking to do a bit too much here.
Paeji and the gang just gonna try and put Drakon in a spot where they have to run around. Dekurza is gonna meet two people. There's the Howling Blast, Stun Lock, Polymorph, everything. They really want Dekurza, but Misha is just gonna wreak havoc in the backside. Cesar is very low as well. That's Arthas falling down, but Dekurza still survives despite all the stuns in the world.
But
My
one pick
God.
is all it's going to take, Riku. They're going to work their way back down to the bottom beacon, start the channel, see if Drakon can try and bridge this gap. They're down 16 to 14. They're not going to be at the talent tier. They're going to have to try and control one of these beacons and try and fight. That top lane was weakened a little bit, and you're going to be facing a strong Zerg wave. Daniel is staying there for the moment. I like the fact that he's willing to at least get it halfway, buy his team a little bit more time for Arthas to come back.
Definitely well played by Drakon, buying some time. 19% already on their core. It's still pretty healthy, but that is very crucial as bottom side is already open. Dekurza spotting them out. There's the slam. Plus slow. We'll see. Freak leading the charge. Who is he gonna Howling Blast? Dekurza definitely a very tanky target. Look at that damage coming from Paeji and the gang. Freak actually just get chunked down to almost half HP. He's gonna be leading the charge there as Paeji and the gang already secures 100% on their Zergs.
Talked about Executioner. No Executioner for Greymane, opting just to go into Alpha Killer, and he's going in, trying to get some damage. Pixie Dust used onto Daniel. He's going to run back. This is going to be a tough defense here as we have a 100% Zerg wave trying to be cleaned up by Drakon here. But now comes Paeji and the gang. Look for the hook. Look for the combo. There's the hook. It just misses. The roots in return by Arthas to keep falling quickly. Phoenix out as well. And Paeji and the gang, are they willing to try and commit to the core one more time?
They're going to be really patient with this one. This is their chance to finish the game and take it to game number 3. Dekurza not able to land the hook. Gravity Lapse misses as well. Freak very low. Down to 1/4 HP, but Dekurza again with the bait. Super low. Putrid Bile actually being activated. Freak, one auto attack away. Almost. Cesar with the ice block. He's going to be fine, but that's an open core. Bottom and top. 5 people still alive for Paeji and the gang.
They tried to put a little bit of pressure, recognize they can't end. The Phoenix might have been a little bit early. You could use that more of a zoning tool on the core. Dekurza not able to land that hook that they were hoping for. They're going to look for one. In the bush, who's going to check it? Who's going to walk? Although Greymane standing out in the open. Here it comes. Curse Bullet's been used. The Howling Blast in return. Gravity Lapse is out. They're trying to put the damage on. Daniel is on Murden, staying alive, and there's the poison damage in return, doing so much. Dekurza trying to walk away from this. He heals up for the moment. In return, Bala goes down.
Dekurza almost dying, gets another lapse of heal. Gravity Lapse onto Freak. He's very low. He's going to walk back to safety. Living Bomb will not be enough. Misha might be the first one to fall from this battle, but it's going to be fine. But look at that. Minion waves already marching towards the core of Drakon. They're going to be forced to back away and defend this.
But of all maps, Riku, this is the one where catapults seem to have the least value in the game. And Paeji and the gang, I feel like they might have had a little bit more opportunity to finish the game.
Yeah.
Drakon, though, has fought valiantly to stay in this game. Arthas, I think, has been playing incredibly well here in the second half of this game, locking down, using the nice peels, keeping himself alive, staying in these fights. He's played really well, keeping them in this game. And now that we're on even talent tiers for a few moments longer, but there's the hook onto Freak, the double Gravity Lapse, and now Freak in all kinds of trouble, trying to stay alive. He's alive for the moment as Daniel wreaking havoc in that backline onto Choicer.
Choicer just managed to walk back safely as Daniel will try to walk as well. He gets the jump. Almost. Paeji. Man, these two teams, I'm loving this fight. The sad thing is for Drakon is that they have to keep an eye on their core every time they find an opportunity against Paeji and the gang. But Beacons, again, they're getting pressured everywhere.
And this is an opportunity. Paeji and the gang, they're going to get both beacons, at least for the moment. Drakon can afford to give up some beacon control here before they engage on here. Daniel already here with the healing static at 13. He has survived very well with that avatar as well in these team fights as of late. but this is where Misha is so valuable. Buying valuable time for the team to come back. The hook into the gravity lapse. Winston already instantly deleted, but Choicer down on the backside.
Beautiful Rain of Vengeance, and we can see that Decurza again, very, very low. Bile for the disengage. Daniel just leaps right back in. Paeji just hiding there in the corner. Daniel is just going to be mounting up. Paeji just going to leap towards a minion to safety, but that's 1-for-1 so far with control over the beacon side for Drakon at bottom, and looks like they're going to start channeling this one.
Post level 10, post level 13, Lunara is dominating this game. 100,000 hero damage already. The next highest in this game is Greymane with 56,000. Lunara is doing so well. There's more peels from Arthas. Daniel all hit with that cursed bullet. He already dwarf tossed out. Let's see if he's got his thunderclap. Can he throw it down?
Oh, nicely done.
Dude, all I know is Daniel is sending a Christmas card out to Freak this year. Thanks for the saves, buddy.
Very, very close. I was worried Avatar wasn't available for Daniel, so that was very close, and that could have been game if ever he got caught. But meanwhile, we've got Beacon still being stalled out for both of these teams. Now it's starting for Paeji in the gang. They've bought a little bit of time, got the bottom, got the camp there. They find Brilliance. Oh.
Dodge the hook, buddy. There's the slow on the slam, dodges the gravity lapse, dodges the hook, puts some pressure in return, gets the shield from Brightwing, but all of a sudden Arata, very low, the cleanse directly on him. He's going to walk away for the moment, trying to stay alive, freaking deep, and he's going to go down as the living bomb is starting to spread. It is hitting everybody as Brightwing goes down, but we do have Kael'thas down in return. The heavy impact onto Arata. We have a 3-for-1 trade. Daniel with no mana, he's still looking for more, but he's got to get out of there, and you got to think this beacon phase is now in control of Paeji and the gang.
Definitely 68% already, with only 2 members alive, with a very, very long death timers for the side of Drakon. Looks like Paeji and the gang has regained control over this map. And again, Drakon, man, that could have worked in their favor. Just too much AoE damage whenever they enter these 5v5 fights.
As you can see, Lunara putting out the damage in this late game, but solo Brightwing having a lot of trouble keeping up with that living bomb spread. The fire from Kael'thas has been so tremendous in key moments in these team fights. Now we've got our Zerg wave level 20 here momentarily for Paeji and the gang. Drakon is held twice. I think they're going to have a hard time holding a third time.
Same here, Drakon with the intense defense here. But there's a Howling Blast. Daniel actually leaps in, gets the stun. Putrid Bile actually being used. Rain of Vengeance will do you no good as Emerald Wind has been utilized as well. Cesar is on the run. Brilliance is actually trying to land the autos, but that's 2 of your frontliners down for Drakon. And we might see a game number 3. Brilliance still trying to clear them out, but that's an open core. And GG WP, game number 3. Phoenix for the zone.
Paeji and the gang turning things around after getting, say, dominated in game 1 of Battlefield of Eternity. This is the map pick for Drakon. Comes in and goes up against a solo Brightwing. Makes easy work of it. I mean, there were moments of contention for Drakon to really kind of stay in that as there's our cat image there.
Yeah.
Making me sleepy now watching that. But Paeji and the gang, draft-wise, I thought they won that. The solo Brightwing just really surprised me coming out there. If you're going to go into solo healer, I don't think Brightwing is kind of where you want it at. And then Kael'thas getting the convection stacks up, getting that living bomb spread just really worked wonders, especially in that last choke point, in that last team fight.
What do you think would have been the best choice in terms of solo healer on their side? And or if ever, what else could they have drafted with that kind of combination?
I just don't understand. It was an early Brightwing too. It's not like they were forced into it. I think maybe they thought they would go double support. I'm just not sure how you commit that early to a Brightwing and don't go double support. You could have got they didn't even go cleanse at level 7. That's the thing. They went into shield on the phase shift, which is even more surprising. And so not going cleanse to deal with some of the CC that's coming out there to get people out of danger. You could have gone Malfurion at that point. Spread more heals. Deal with a lot more of that spread damage. You don't have that burst healing to deal with the Kael'thas, with the Greymane, but you don't necessarily have the burst heal because you went Emerald Wind at level 10 instead of Blink Heal. So some questionable decisions, I think, in terms of the draft after a very, very good game by
Yes.
Drakon in game number 1. Made, I think, a few draft errors in game 2, and they fought hard the
They
second half of that
did.
game. Post level 10, post level 13 with Lunara actually worked out pretty well. Just wasn't enough to seal the deal.
Exactly. I mean, even though they were like 2 levels behind, they still managed to get back into the game. It's just that it's just so difficult whenever Paeji in the game gets these right setups, especially in these congested areas where it's perfect. Like the gravity lapse is so easy to land. The Phoenix is just gonna put it right there, and everybody is just clamped up in just one single area. The putrid bile just letting them bathe into the fire. It's just the perfect map for this kind of composition, and that's why I find it, difficult, just as you mentioned, having a solo healer with all that DPS coming from Paeji and the gang. So we'll see what kind of adjustments we're going to be having as game number 3 is Cursed Hollow.
Cursed Hollow. Looking forward to this one. We've seen two-lane maps so far, heavily team fight oriented maps. This time, we're going to see who's got better macro control. We saw the priority on the global in terms of Brightwing, not necessarily a Brightwing global-ish map, but this one we haven't seen Dahaka really yet come out today. I think
Yes.
now potentially see the Dahaka fall stat, try and play around that global. Saw a lot of it yesterday on these bigger battlegrounds, so we'll see as we head into game 3 here shortly.
Yeah, I mean, we saw in the drafting how both of these teams really value Stitches. Both of them have effective Stitches players, and I'm really looking forward to who are they going to ban it instead? Are they not going to put it on the field? What do you think? Is Stitches a very effective pick for Cursed Hollow, or is it just okay?
It's okay. I think if you're looking at hierarchy, you kind of think Tyrael's up there, but a lot of people don't play Tyrael. Tyrael's really high. We saw Yu Yang play it phenomenally yesterday, one of the few teams here that's willing to commit to that in multiple games. Really good authority on this one. Muradin, we saw Muradin last game, wouldn't be a bad option. Really good control, can stay on those fights. And we saw after level 13 with that healing static, he stayed in a lot of those fights, even through the cursed bullet and the blow-up damage.
Yeah.
Things like that. Stitches is good. You just got to have the right combo around it. Just getting Stitches for the sake of controlling a point, not so much. Getting the hook and the combos that we saw last game, then you can try and make it work more effectively. You get more value out of that pick despite the fact that he's got that bigger health pool, things like that. So getting heroes like that I think would be good. We probably won't see a Rexar this game. I love the Rexar pickup though, but heroes like that in terms of that. Again, we still haven't seen our Garrosh. And I think Garrosh now, when you talk about the amount of structure or the amount of terrain in this map that you can kind of throw people behind, especially certain points on the map for the tribute contention.
Yes.
Throw them over, see what happens. I'm still waiting for my first Garrosh game. It's got to happen soon.
It's got to happen soon. And for me, for why would I say play stop? For Drakon, I'm really looking forward to more, team fights with them, because I'm pretty sure that it wasn't apparent at that game number 2 because they had to reposition every time.
Yeah.
They got zoned out so many times. And I guess for Paeji and the gang, it really worked out in their favor. I mean, they favored the double support on their composition back at the qualifiers 1 and 2, but it seems that they're also comfy with their triple damage dealers. They're also comfy with that kind of composition. So we'll see what style they'll do this time around. As this is game number 3, it's do or die. Whoever loses, it's game over. No lowers bracket.
If only the dream. But you made a good point, is that they had the triple backline with Tass, Li Ming, and Zul'jin in game 1. They
Yes.
committed to the double warrior in game 2, and at times it looked really good. I love the Arthas play, especially like I said during the second half of that game. So I like the fact that they have the flexibility to adapt in certain situations. So
Yes.
we'll see how it plays. Again, that Arthas pick could have been a second healer, but they
Yeah.
were forced into it. So I like the flexibility of their players. It's just a matter of, can they get a little bit better draft, I think, this time around. So the sport Brightwing may be a thing on certain battlegrounds. Very few teams can pull it off. Fnatic, most notably, just several months ago, used that on Cursed Hollow with the Stitches. You get the hook, the gorge, the Emerald Wind split, things like that.
Nice.
Those are high execution compositions, though. I don't know if we'll be seeing that today, but
Yeah.
so far I've been a little bit surprised.
Yeah, I mean, they keep taking away the Stitches anyway from each other, so we'll see. Looks like we'll be heading into our game number 3. I really want to know who's going to be winning this third game, as both of these teams have what it takes here to be on top. And we'll see what's going to be the first bans. The usuals that we see are going to be, Genji is always there. The Stitches is a high priority for both of these teams. Oriel, surprisingly, wasn't even banned, wasn't even picked on our game from earlier. Not so much of an important pick for Braxis on that map. So let's see. They're hovering over to the Genji, which is Drakon's go-to first ban.
The Genji ban makes sense. Battleground to work around, lots of escape options. Use that cyber agility, hop over some terrain, get to a safe distance. We've seen less than, I guess, successful Genji play. We saw some good play out of it yesterday by NSJ, but Tassadar being off, I gotta feel that this is probably going to be a Stitches, if not potentially a Dahaka. I think people are starting to fall off the Ariel train pretty quick.
Definitely, as day number 2, very, very apparent, the less priority now for the Oriole. They really love their Stitches. They really love their Vala. Definitely. We'll see as they're going to be taking their time on this one, looking at their pool or what they've picked from Qualifiers 1. Earlier, they did ban out the Gray main, but game number 2 was used by Paeji and the gang. So Kael'thas for Drakon also has been used for the Qualifiers back then. Lunara is definitely something, but definitely not a priority. But it's a favorite. It's a favorite by this tournament, but she is back. The Angel's back.
The Angel's back. I'm surprised to see that first ban, but they're going into it. They're committed to it, which, again, could play into that double support again, as we'll see Ariel picked up here. And, again, we've seen so much from the Lunara. If Paeji and the gang does not pick Lunara here, you can expect for Drakon and team, as we see the Stitches rising in priority very quickly in this series. They opt for the Vala, which they will indeed be giving up the Lunara to Drakon.
Definitely. Drakon, I love the Lunara play. I love the positioning. It's just, again, very difficult for that composition. Looks like they're going to be taking away the Vala away from the Oriel, but Lunara Oriel still pretty good. Still pretty good.
Lunara Oriel, I appreciate that a lot more than Vala on this battleground in particular. You know, Stitches is there, and it's interesting because if you go Lunara here, this is a perfect opportunity to go Leaping Strike. Yes, the poke damage is good, but when you need that added mobility, especially depending on how you go into the late game,
yes.
If you don't pick up Lunara here, we'll potentially see the Cassia or the Zul'jin on the backline. We've already seen them pick Zul'jin, so they might not feel the need to prioritize that hero this high, but I think that Lunara gives you that added mobility. We saw
True.
a good play out of that last game, and I would do really well to deal with Stitches. The poke, slow potential there.
They went for the Dahaka Tyrael.
I love the Tyrael pickup.
Definitely. Not revealing too much yet. They're going to be reserving their 2 last slots for their damage dealers. I'm actually pretty curious. I'd love to see a Cassia, but looks like, you know, I'm not going to see a Cassia. If you like seeing like a Rexar, I would love to see a Cassia here. But anyway, going back, it's going to be Paeji's turn to ban. They banned Gray main before. I mean, this is the perfect time to actually ban out probably a DPS for themselves, as that's the last 2 picks for their side for Drakon. So let's see what they're going to take out into the battlefield. They've
spending a lot of time deciding the ban.
Yeah.
If they didn't pick up Lunara the first time, and we talk about Ariel batteries, Gul'dan and Lunara kind of at the top tier. They ban Li Ming. Interesting.
Definitely. They're afraid
Maybe they'll
of
just
the
go
poke.
double auto attacker and just take Lunara away and be like, good luck with whatever's left.
Probably. That's probably their plan. Okay, I'm taking a look at what they've drafted up from qualifiers. They also play Falstad. They also play Tracer. But in terms of, like, just as you mentioned, Oriel batteries, it's just they also play Gul'dan, Lunara. I mean, Lunara is open, but they're hovering over the Uther.
I made this point yesterday that if you go Lunara, I'm more than comfortable giving up Uther to the enemy team. Like, you can have Uther. Here's some spread damage. Good luck, Uther. You know, I mean, it's easier to get into choke points and get heal out of the Wave of Light for Uther to deal the AoE heals, but if I'm hitting Rhaegar here, Rhaegar or Malfurion, but or Savior support. Savior support.
I'm curious what Drakon is about to draft. I mean, you know what's the interesting part of game number 3 is they always surprise us during the last rotations of picks. So 35 seconds left on the clock, decides to go for the Malthael. What is going to be their healer? What is their other frontliner?
If you're going double support, you pick up a Brightwing here, pick up your last support next. If you're going global, pick up a Falsat here, potentially save your support for the last pick to figure out what you're going to need to deal with what the damage is going to be coming out to be paired with Ariel. There's a lot of decisions to be made. Do you want to try and take control of the draft now, just make a big power play, or do you want to wait and be counteractive to what Drakon's doing? Reactive, I should say.
I have a feeling Paeji might be a little bit more mysterious about that last pick, so they might go for their damage dealer. You are right. They're going to be very mysterious about their healer at this point. So Drakon, we'll see.
Because that's the thing, Riku, is that if we see Lunara here, you can rest assured Uther's not going to be picked up. But if we see something like Cassia or Gul'dan, you can feel more comfortable going into Uther. And if I've got Uther for either a Malthael dive or a Greymane dive, that is phenomenal pickup. I like the fact that Paeji and the gang is playing this way in their draft. I'm very, very happy that they're willing to hold on to that pick.
Same here, very patient with their drafting. So what's it going to be, Drakon? Just as you said, they have to have someone to power up those hope, to generate those hope. Oriel, not much in terms of high generating heroes. They played Falstad, they played Tracer, they played Kael'thas, Gul'dan. Lunara still open. So I'm guessing, I find it impossible that Lunara is not going to be here. Okay, it's actually possible. Uther. Zul'jin solo damage dealer? Is that? What do you think about that?
It's not what I expected.
Same here.
You do have several layers of protection. This is double warrior, double support, solo Zul'jin. It's a tricky, tricky thing.
It is.
I am really surprised that this is the pickup, though. Dahaka is going to be a big-time X factor in this game. Playing the global, staying in lanes as long as you possibly can to control the global, and there is our first Stukov pickup to deal with the potential hook into a silence, no escape option. It's not what I expected
Same
at all.
here. I was expecting something different. I was expecting Lunara to be back in the field, but looks like we're going to be seeing that Stitches Stukov combo. The hook into the silence, not going to escape, burst that one down. I mean, Paeji and the gang has enough damage to definitely just eliminate someone in seconds.
The Stukov pick can deny a lot of the tribute captures, and he's under no real threat. There's Dahaka flank position, Tyrael dive, but Zul'jin's not exactly going in. Uther, I would not be surprised if we see the potential Divine Storm. You've got enough healing to keep Zul'jin alive despite Taz Dingo trying to go into that. You've got enough healing that if you time it appropriately, get the Taz Dingo out and get the heal either from Ariel or Uther, save those heals. If not, maybe you do end up going into that Divine Shield. But I'd love to see the potential just kind of walk right in, casual approach with the Dahaka, with the Tyrael, kind of get on that, use Sanctification as needed, hit him with the Divine Storm, and really try and put that pressure on and force Stukov to deal with that. Stukov is a melee hero.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody pick the ranged auto attack talent at level 1, always going into the lurking arm at level 1. He does have that ability. I don't think we're going to see it here in Game 3 as Drakon is going to take on Paeji and the gang. One team goes home, one team moves on, and on the left it will be Drakon, and that will be Caesar. Oh, man. Here we go. Caesar on the Ariel, Daniel on Dahaka, Winston on Uther, Brilliance on Zul'jin, and Freak on Tyrael.
Meanwhile, on the red side, we got Paeji and the gang. We've got Choicer on the Vala, Paeji there on the Greymane, Noxum on the Stukov, Dekurza on the Stitches as usual. On the top side, Malthael. She's my chillin', but we're going to be seeing a pause. Tactical.
I will figure out what's going on here in just a second. Hopefully not too long of a pause there. Get back in the game. But again, all is on the line here. You're either moving on or you're watching for the rest of the day, or you're just too upset and you just ignore it and find out the winner later. As a competitor in anything myself, I'd probably be the guy that's like I don't really want to watch Might watch, but I'm going to watch it begrudgingly. And you don't want to be on that role. You want to be in the game. So
Yeah.
both these teams fighting for a lot. We've seen the draft diversity really evolve just within this series alone. We've seen a lot of Lunara, a lot of Zul'jin the first few days, and here we go, double warrior, double support for the solo Zul'jin. I'm looking forward to seeing how they can execute this comp.
What do you think is their strategy here? For both of these compositions is a full-on 5v5, correct?
Dahaka, stay in
Dahaka.
lane as long as you possibly can, as we are back in the game. No longer a pause here. Everything pretty standard across the board thus far. Although, On a Pale Horse, picked up here from Althel. We've seen some different builds throughout the day, but On a Pale Horse going to be the pickup for this first game.
Wow.
Waiting for everybody to show here in the middle.
Wow.
And then I was expecting the instant aggression with the Zul'jin in the bottom lane. Instead, a little bit of indecision here by Drakon.
Looks like it, as they're going to be scouting out. Freak will spot out Noxum and everybody else, rotating bot side with Stitches in the middle, together with Uther. Brilliance is going to be staying with the Oriole as expected. But for now, it's just going to be a very passive start in comparison to the aggressive Stitches first pick. Let's see if we're going to get one.
Zul'jin gonna hang out down here with Ariel. We'll see how that goes as Paeji on the Gray Man again. Saw really good aggression last game from him. Coming in, trying to put the pressure onto that Gray Man. I liked what we saw out of him in that previous game. See if he can recreate some of that magic here in game 3.
Definitely, Paeji the gang is going to be very patient as Daniel drags in the Malthel. Arada is going to be A-okay as he takes a little bit of tower damage, is going to be fine. But yes, sirree, quite a passive start for both of these teams. Very, very crucial as Brilliance is super low, gets a lot of heals coming from Cesar and Uther. It's like the two Guardians again. Double support here for the Zul'jin.
Forgive me, but I'm thinking ahead on how this works, because you're going to have Sanctification and Tormented Souls. They'll likely pick up for Malthale. Greymane obviously will want to dive in. You have 4 melee potentially once he goes into Worgen form. And you have Sanctification and the potential for the Divine Storm to deal with that and just obliterate Paeji's assault. I can't help but look forward here, but I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be this approach for the first few minutes, but our first tribute should be spawning soon.
Definitely gonna be a contestation. I feel like Paeji and the gang will probably try to first pick before actually try to channel in, but looks like Noxum is gonna get the early damage onto Brilliance. Choicer landing with the autos. First blood goes to Paeji and the gang.
That's unfortunate timing. Should be back if the team can hold on during this first tribute, but that is your only true assassin on this team. Uther staying bottom lane to deal with the siege camp. I got a feeling they're just going to give this up. Give up the first tribute, maybe deny for a moment, but Drakon playing it safe. I like the hesitation there, the patient, safe approach.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. It is just the first tribute. But once it reaches like 2-3 for Paeji, that's where Drakon might be a little bit too antsy. Might a little bit antsy to actually try to contest that. But meanwhile, they're going to be securing caps, gain more control over the battlefield as Drakon will be patiently waiting for the correct timing. I cannot wait for it till they reach level 10 and the party gets going.
With a solo damage dealer of Zul'jin, we're seeing the extra essence picked up at level 1, not the extra movement speed. And we see that used in 2 different ways in our current meta. Is at level 10, we might see isolation, make up for that extra, or that lack of healing that you're going to get from the adaptation. Make sure you have extra essence to heal. But you might also see at level 13 go into the extra auto attack damage based on essence. And that's the thing that I want to see coming out from here. Maybe you need that extra damage. Get that extra essence, contribute to that extra auto attack damage at 13. Maybe go into isolation, just kind of keep everybody alive with that double support. Maybe make Drakon and team there with the Dahaka a bit more bruiser oriented as we go forward. But 2 tributes Rico picked up here for Paeji in the game.
Definitely a lot of pressure on Dragon. And going back to what you pointed earlier, building up a bruiser for Drakon, which is completely understandable because if they go completely defensive, then I'm afraid they wouldn't have that much damage to actually get on these 5v5 contestants whenever this reaches to a 2-3 curse, especially now we're going to be seeing it in a few, so it's quite understandable if they go for that approach. But meanwhile, what do you think is Zul'jin's choice of heroic?
Test Dingo all day.
Dingo all day.
Yeah, just
all right.
it's if you get Dove, you basically have that extra life for 4 seconds. Then you've got the potential Divine Shield or Divine Storm. Then the Crystal Aegis, you've got double support. You just get incredible value out of that. As much as we've seen Guillotine buffed, I think that with double support, the value you'll get out of it will probably be pretty minimum. So Taz Dingo, but we see Hand of Protection picked up for Uther to deal with the potential silence, get out of danger, get that unstoppable going. But we've got our third tribute. Drakon and team got to make a stand here, else they give up a curse.
Here it is, Drakon just going to get into position right away. They actually catch Freak, all the damage in the world. Silence at that choke point. Stukov just going to back away. And there's the pull onto Winston. They found the right target. Look at that DOT. Freak, no mana, just trying to run away. They managed to get the kill, but look at that. Daniel into stasis. He's very low. Dekurza going to reposition himself. Brilliance landing the autos. It's very effective. Winston with the channel. Are they going to get this curse? Are they going to get this tribute? They will.
The Hungry Arrow is like just flying around, floating around. It's like, who do I go to next?
Whoops.
And Uther, fortunate enough, was not him, and the channel picked up there by Drakon.
How unfortunate.
I was just holding my breath like, is that going to get him?
I thought it was going to get canceled too. But looks like they get the deny, but it's okay. Paeji and the gang can just wait it out, wait for the next tribute, and probably be more aggressive when it comes to that. At least that gives Drakon a good window of opportunity to reach level 10 and actually just go all on out. But look at that. They're going to get to that boss on that side. What is Drakon intending to do? They're still pushing that bottom side, have no idea that the boss is being taken.
And not seeing anybody on the minimap, they've got to assume that. Unfortunately, they don't. We've already had our cycle of 3. Tributes spawn in a cycle of 3. After that, the next one, you don't know where it's going to spawn. So RNG, if it's on the side of Paeji and the gang, will spawn somewhere near them, somewhere on the opposite side of the map. It kind of depends. Now you've got the boss in the top lane. Dahaka forced to deal with that. The rest of Paeji and the gang, they can rotate bottom, get more value out of that boss. We'll see as the hook in there on Zul'jin. He'll walk away. Freak going to get out in the middle. But Riku, we've got ourselves level 10. We got teams going down. Divine Shield, not Divine Storm, was the pickup.
Will you look at that? Paeji leading the front line as Tyrael. Eldrain's Might in. And Brilliance here with the autos. Just very painful cocktails coming from Greymane as Arata gets dragged in, gets the stun. Rain of Vengeance. There's Arata with the Tormented Souls. Cesar has full hope. The heal is there. AoE. The first one to fall down is Malthael. There's the Sanctification. And looks like Stukov decides, nope, go away. We're done. We don't want to fight you. As the boss will just try to put down some damage on towards the top side of the map.
They got boss value. They got the hook onto Tyrael. Not going to be enough. I'm just... Divine Shield and Adaptation picked up for Dahaka. This team of Drakon is like, look, we just don't want to die. Taz Dingo, Sanctification, Crystal Aegis, Adaptation, Divine Shield. Those are all survivability heroics.
Exactly.
We'll see if they might need a little bit more punch in the late game, but right now it's working out for them as they've evened up the tribute count 2-2.
Exactly. It's like they just want to out-sustain you during these fights, which makes probably Paeji and the gang decide to disengage and then just let them walk away. We don't have to kill. Just let them go, and then we're going to be securing the tribute, and then we'll fight from there. That's probably their plan for now, which is what happened from earlier. They managed to kill Malthael. No, not enough sustain for him on that side, but so far so good for Drakon. 11 though, level down, but that's fine. They're almost level 12 anyways, but 2-3, this is where it's at.
I'll say this. There's a strategy as Brilliance is going to go down. I was going to say, here's a strategy you can use, is that if you have 2 tributes and you're down a level, down a talent tier, you don't necessarily have to contest. You can give it up. You already picked up the camp middle as they're going to go in. They're trying to get some damage onto Arata, who's now used Tormented Souls and just applying that Reaper's Mark all over the place. And look at this, Drakon somehow coming up for the moment But now Paeji and the gang has joined the fight. We'll talk about that strategy at another time as Putrid Ball is now out.
Look at that. There's Cesar with a full energy. Lands in the heel freak. Super low. Divine Shield being activated there as Rain of Vengeance stuns one target. Daniel super low as well. Arata just marching in. He's still alive. Pulls you back in. Get over here. And he manages to finish off the kill. 2 members down for Drakon.
You got to wonder if Drakon could have just given that up. Fought for 13 during the tribute phase. You had a camp defending middle. You've got a fort still standing bottom. You've got the global. Instead, they opt to take the fight, waiting for Zul'jin to get there, use all their defensive cooldowns, unable to pull it out. Now Paeji and the gang in firm control of this game as they're going to push forward, see if they can stretch their experience lead and try and take control of this game.
Yes, sirree. They reap what they sow. Paeji and the gang here just applying so much pressure all over the map as Drakon will just pick up the pieces later on. But 12-14, again, they have the level lead. They can snowball into this as Drakon has a lot of survivability. Again, if it doesn't work at the first clash, then they have to retry again later on. 15 already for Paeji and the gang, and Curse still alive. 30 seconds.
When you said they reap what they sow, were you thinking of Mouthale?
Yep. Yep.
Listen, I want to talk about Mouthale in particular because I saw phenomenal play by Arata in Game 1 of Battlefield of Eternity on Mouthale. He's doing it again. And his level 13 talent against a solo damage dealer of Zul'jin, Ethereal Existence, making sure he gets that extra physical armor for members applied. Put the tongue in onto Dekurza, trying to walk out of there. In return, Freak taking a lot of damage. And now all of a sudden, the Rain of Vengeance comes out, but Daniel gets another tongue in. They get the stun, they get the lockdown, but the detainment strike away. Sanctification forced to be used here. Tyrael not going to survive for long coming out of there. He's going to go down. And the rest of Drakon forced to... Oh! The cocktail to the face as Zul'jin goes down.
Man, oh man. 13-16. Paeji and the gang levels, composition, and even control over the map. They've got it right now, securing the boss. Probably just in time for the next tribute to spawn to add more pressure for Drakon. But so far, these fights are definitely not in favor of Drakon not being able to secure the kill. Always just just 3 or 2, 5 odd attacks away for die until the heals come in again from Paeji and the gang.
Well, they're pushing in. They've got themselves a 3-level lead and a boss. This could equal as we see the hook in over the silence going down. Freak, no sanctification as that was used before. Divine Shield forced to go out there. This boss incredibly healthy. You got to think, is it worth it for Drakon to just fall back behind the keep, try and dodge that hook behind there, and give up the keep? Because right now this is a scary place. Dekurza going in, but the root actually kept Freak from being hooked in.
Oh my,
interesting.
Brilliance. Super low. But it's okay. They've eliminated the boss. Dekurza still in the front line, looking for that hook. I mean, I like the combo. They've put it in advance, the Stukov Silence, then the Rain of Vengeance, just to eliminate the target. There's the hook onto Brilliance. Rain of Vengeance. Oh my god. Daniel gets into stasis. Sanctification being used. Cesar super low. Holding onto the W. Heals himself, but a lot of members need your heal. And that is it. 3 members down and 5 still alive for Paeji and the gang.
There's something to be said for stepping out when your keep is still alive and you're down 3 levels, Riku. And that right there is a statement in its own, as Paeji and the gang will gladly take that team fight. They get the kills. They put the pressure onto the core, which is now rapidly falling. Riku, Paeji and the gang going to be moving on and sending Drakon home for the day.
Yes, sirree. Congratulations to Paeji and the gang. Wow. I'm pretty sure Paeji and the gang is a community SEA favorite, and I'm sure the fans are happy to see them advance through this round. And there you go with a cute cat face.
That's a look of a winner. It's the face of a winner right there, is that cat. But Paeji and the gang stumbled a bit, but they picked up the pieces and they came home and cleared up. I think that was incredibly well played the last 2 games because they looked really shaky in Game 1, and Drakon actually played incredibly well in Game 1. Paeji and the gang hung tough, but they weren't able to pull it out. But Game 2 had a better draft, played it very well. Game 3, again, the double support, double warrior into a Zul'jin solo auto attack Zul'jin some questions can be said, I think, about that composition.
Yeah, I really think that for Drakon's side, their execution is there, their team synergy is there, is that they put themselves in these awkward compositions where it's kind of hard to execute and their winning conditions are very tricky to deal with, especially with the composition that they're against. So it's quite, very interesting to watch these two teams. And look at that, Paeji and the gang came up on top.
The full-on double support, again, on paper it looks good. We see certain regions that can run it, but I'm a huge proponent of not going full double support unless it's absolutely the number one thing to do. And in some of these situations, I'm not entirely sold. Ariel, we're seeing the effects because we are on the live patch. We're seeing the effects of the drop-off since the changes onto how the hope is generated.
Yes.
And teams, I think, are having a little bit of trouble executing that. But, again, credit to Paeji and the gang for turning this series around, coming through with the drafts. Paeji himself on the Gray main play the last few games, I thought has been pretty phenomenal.
All right, looks like we're going to be ready in a few, but let's take a break first before we enter our second match. See you guys later.